Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tennessee Twos Disc Golf Podcast. This is going to be episode 10?
8.
8.
You're
I don't
ahead
know
of the
why I thought
times,
it was,
buddy.
I don't know why I thought 9 was last week. I'm confused. Yeah, anyways, everybody, welcome to the show. As you guys can see here on the live feed, we have a guest with us, and we will introduce him here in a second. But also across from me, we've got my co host, Ethan Jenkins, and my name is Daniel Bacon. Um, we're going to do a little bit of shameless plugging this week before we get into things. Just a reminder to get out there and follow us on Instagram. If you guys missed it, we actually did a giveaway this last week. So you don't want to miss the next one when it comes around. Um, and in the name of giveaways, the next time we do one, hopefully it'll actually be on Twitter. So go ahead and go give us a follow on Twitter. That's where we do a lot of our interaction with you guys. We like to talk to you guys on there, interact with other people. Disc golf Twitter has started to really grow this last year, so let's go ahead and keep that going. And then I also want to announce, if you guys have not seen yet, the podcast is officially available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We are a little bit behind. We haven't posted everything yet, but hopefully in the next 7 to 10 days or so, we'll be completely caught up. And then sometime around the Las Vegas Challenge or so, everything will be coming out the next morning um, weekly. So we shouldn't have to worry too much about um, time gaps anymore. So thank you guys so much for the support that we've seen so far. It's been great. It's been super fun. We hope to continue doing this and growing with you guys. I'm going to kick it over to my co host real quick, and he's going to introduce our guest.
Yes, and welcome everybody. We do appreciate everybody that comes in and joins. Um, Thank you for the shares and all the support. We really do appreciate it. With us today, we have a very special guest, our first live interview, and he is a very, I would say, well known disc dyer around the Tennessee area. And I'll go ahead and introduce the owner of Shakedown Dyes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. My name's Rob. I am the owner, I suppose, now of Shakedown Dyes. Um, didn't necessarily set out to be the owner of anything, I guess, when this kind of started. I've been uh, I've been around disc golf kind of on and off since about '95 or '96. I first started throwing discs at a place called Carpenter State Park back home in Delaware. And through this was pre-YouTube and pre-flight number, and through big ugly hyzers and shit stuff that flipped over. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're
And
good.
uh, and just kind of out with friends playing throwing frisbees was more or less what it was. I moved to Nashville in '99 and played a little bit here and there for a couple years, and then just kind of got away from the sport for whatever reason. And then in '04, I guess, I severely dislocated my right shoulder and tore my labrum, and just assumed disc golf was no longer a possibility. I figured there's just probably no way I can be out there chucking frisbees as hard as I can, so I just didn't. Between then and the summer of '19, I dislocated my shoulder, I guess, 7 or 8 more times, probably, to the point where it was just felt like it wanted to fall out.
Right.
Um, but at the same time, I have a 10-year-old, at the time 10-year-old, and at the time 16-year-old, now 12 and 18. And the older one wanted to try disc golf, while the younger one and I would go mountain biking at Cane Ridge. And one day I was like, all right, I still had some discs sitting around from the late '90s. So we went and played Big Daddy Kane. I played in Birkenstocks, and I do not recommend anyone playing Big Daddy Kane in Birkenstocks.
Noted.
Um, it is, if you're not familiar, Big Daddy Kane is a, very, very, very wooded uh, course here in
Yeah.
Nashville. But I found that I could still throw discs. It didn't bother my shoulder. I could not throw sidearm. I could not throw overhand, but I could still throw backhand. Not well. I could hit trees, but instantly fell back in love with disc golf. Um, like that day, fell back in love with disc golf. And a lot had changed since about 01-ish, since probably the last time I had played disc golf to this was like July of 19. The internet, had
Mm-hmm.
become a pretty big thing in those 20 or so years. And I got online and was just absolutely blown away by, even then, this was pre-pandemic, how much bigger disc golf had gotten. There were, back when I was playing in the mid to late 90s, it was Innova, and like I don't even remember Discraft being around anywhere.
Right.
Gas stations had, some Innova discs, and that's honestly all I really remember there being. And now, obviously, fast forward to the summer of 19, and things had changed. There's 5 or 6 at least major brands of discs, and then what, 50 more,
Right.
smaller brands, niche brands or whatever. Um, and YouTube, I mean, I was like, oh my God, I can watch disc golf. I can watch competitive disc golf. I can
Yeah.
watch form, practice tips, videos, form videos, instruction, and was just that much more like sucked in immediately. Not only did I figure out that I could go play disc golf again, which I love because I just love being in the woods, but that there was an entire world of disc golf that had exploded again, and this is pre-pandemic. That's just how much it had changed in 17 or 18 years.
Right.
Um, so my boys at first were super into it. They're like, "Yeah, let's go play again tomorrow." I was like, "Great!" So we go play, the next day, and they were really into it for about 3 months, and unfortunately, that was about the end of it for them. But at the time, they were turning 10 and 16,
Right.
and through all my disc golf online exploring, I'd seen people dyeing discs, and I was at first just so blown away by it. I was like, God, these guys must have this crazy technical machinery and equipment, and oh my God, how could you possibly do that? And I kept seeing more and more of it, like on Instagram and stuff, and I started thinking, it seems to me if this many people are dyeing discs, it can't be like you've got to have thousands of
Right.
dollars worth of technical machinery or whatever. So I started watching some YouTube videos and decide that this is something maybe I can do. So for my boys' birthdays, which they're in October, they're like a week apart. I dyed 2 discs for their birthdays.
Mhm.
I actually have them still. Um,
Oh, nice.
Nice.
10
so
and 16.
they were for their birthdays. I think some of the spin dye has been added since then. Some of it I did then. This one actually has an owl stenciled in the middle that you
Right.
really can't see. But the 10 and the 16 were hand cut out of like some like paper letters, number stencils from like
Right.
Michaels.
Yeah.
And back then you could still get dye poly on the shelf at Michaels. Like that's just not even close to being heard of these days, obviously.
Hmm.
And ProChem wasn't really around then. It was dye poly, and that was about it. So I did a couple, these shaving cream dyes for them, and bought like a $20 record player off Craigslist and put a little spin dye on it, and that was their birthday present, one of their birthday presents. And I thought this was maybe a tradition we would dye a disc every year for their birthdays, and unfortunately, they could care less at this
Right.
point about disc golf. But
It was still cool though. I mean,
Oh
I
it
yeah.
would
was
have
super
been
cool,
all
and
about it.
the best thing about it at this point is since they don't care, they're glow C line P2s. Like they're really really nice
Yeah.
discs that you can't just find anywhere anymore. So
No.
if nothing else, I've got a couple backup glow C line P2s that are on the shelf for,
Well,
for me
they're
at some point.
they're just itching to be thrown now.
Yeah, they have been and they will be. That's for sure. They're not going anywhere. Um, and I dyed a couple discs for my bag at the time, a couple little spin dyes, and just kind of tried some like splattering some discs and another, I think one more shaving cream dye. Maybe these were both shaving cream dyes, and then I just kind of didn't do it again for
Right.
whatever reason. Just kind of got away from it and gave up, whatever. And really wish I hadn't, because I think I could probably be a little further along than I am now. But eventually, like I said, eventually the summer of 20, which would have been the first pandemic summer, I decided to finally just go ahead and get my shoulder fixed. It was going to be like 6 to 8 weeks out of work, and had to have obviously conversations with the family about doing that kind of
Right.
stuff, whatever. But said, let's do it. Let's get the shoulder fixed. It had dislocated on me twice in the previous 3 or 4 months, literally not doing anything. Like
Right.
reaching for
It just
something, rolled over in bed one day, it came out, and it's like, yeah, I can't live my life like this. Like I can't reach up onto a cabinet without worrying that there's a 50-50 chance we're going to the hospital to have my shoulder put back in.
right. Yeah, that's definitely not worth it.
No, no.
Yeah.
I lived with it for a very long time and just kind of didn't do a lot of stuff and would always be very careful about things. And finally, we had went to Florida, ironically, um, spring of 20, March of 20, we had went to, or yeah, March of 20, we had went to Florida. And while we were in Florida, the country's like starting to shut down to the point where it was like, do we need to book a earlier flight and get out of Florida? Because there were so many rumors and just no one knew what was going to happen. And we
Right.
ended up flying home from Florida on a Tuesday, and I had dislocated my shoulder while I was there. And we had said, listen, when we get back, you need to see an orthopedist and let's, seriously see what we can do about getting this shoulder fixed.
Right.
And between the time I dislocate my shoulder on like a Friday while we're in Florida and the Tuesday we fly home, like half the country had shut down. So we get back to Nashville on a Tuesday, and Friday was pretty much like lockdown, pandemic,
Yeah, that was
full effect, whatever your state's stuff that was going on. That's kind of when it happened. So obviously I wasn't having shoulder surgery. I was fortunate enough to work throughout the pandemic. And then in like June, things started opening up a little bit. They started doing elective surgeries again, et cetera. So I got right in, fortunately, within about probably 3 weeks. Saw my
yeah.
doctor, saw an orthopedist, had an MRI, got the shoulder operated on. Great. So we go through recovery. Obviously, I'm not playing disc golf since about March because of dislocating the shoulder, and it's just been loose and bad and blah, blah, blah. Get the shoulder operated on in July. It's about 6 to 8 weeks before I'm back to work, and about 4 weeks after that, I'm out mountain biking with my kid out in the in Leapers Fork outside of Nashville, and crash and break my right ankle in 3 places. So
It's
another
just
setback.
unfortunate. Yeah.
And I'm
That's
48 years old. At the time, I was 47, I think. Um, so here I am again. Definitely not working. In a boot. Not doing much of anything. But cussing pretty much
yeah.
because it was painful and it was not fun. So while I'm out with the ankle injury, I start seeing more and more dying starting to really pick up. We're approaching a year into the pandemic, and obviously disc golf had absolutely
Boomed.
exploded during the pandemic, and
Right.
dying started to, obviously pick up a lot throughout the pandemic as well, and started to see the cell dies and just fell in love with cell dies. I just thought that they were just so, so cool, just, always very random and unique. And you didn't have to be an artist because I'm not an artist. I can't draw, I can't paint, I
Right.
can't play an instrument. I wish I could do all of those things. I've always wanted to do all those things. I've owned probably 5 or 6 guitars in my life, and I can play like 30 seconds of Wish You Were Here.
Hey.
That's like my
Hey.
cumulative guitar
It's probably
experience.
the best 30 seconds though.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably not. It's passable. You would know that it's Wish You Were Here when I played it. So like that's really,
I mean, that's good
all you can
enough.
ask, right? That's exactly. So um I decided I was off with the ankle, and it was about January of last year, and we had a really bad cold snap here. I think we got some snow and ice, and I had been doing a whole lot of nothing throughout the holidays with the ankle. Obviously, wasn't playing disc golf, and decided once again. I had learned to do these first couple discs that I did for my boys via YouTube. Just watching primarily the differences doing it. Shout out to Bobby. That guy is
Nice.
just, I mean, if you're not familiar and you're interested in dying at all, please do yourself a favor and follow the differences doing it because that guy is a freaking mad genius.
Yeah. I
Guys
I
are,
follow him on Instagram. So,
yeah, dude. I mean, he's 14 levels past anything that I can think about doing. But the
I
coolest
don't
thing I think of, I
know.
appreciate it. But the coolest thing about Bobby is he is so giving, I think, to the dying community. Like he
Mm-hmm.
is so willing to teach and show and video and record obviously everything he does. Like he's not trying to have secrets or
Right.
anything about how he does what he does, and that's definitely where I've learned most of what I've learned. But uh back to where I was with the ankle and started getting into these cell dyes and just, really thinking how cool they were. So I get back on YouTube and start, how to cell dye. And
Right.
probably probably end up back on the T Diddy YouTube page would be my guess. But it it uh it's not something that like you have to, special order a hundred things and have all kinds of tools and equipment and, kind of going back to that first one
Right.
where I thought people had to have, some kind of machinery or something. So
So
Ba
in order to do a cell die, um, kind of walk us through that process. Of like,
so I do what's called flow trawl beds.
okay,
We had talked a little bit about earlier, there are obviously a lot of different methods of dyeing. There's
right.
glue beds, there's cell dyes, there's spin dyes, a lot of different stuff. So I do what's called flow trawl beds, and flow trawl is it's a latex paint conditioner. And I guess the idea behind it is if you're a painter, like painting houses, painting, big walls and stuff, it's supposed to help smooth out paint and help you not have paint lines in your paint.
Okay.
So you would literally mix it into your paint when you paint houses, paint walls and stuff. At the end of the day, whatever your bed is made out of, whether it's clear glue or Floetrol or white glue or whatever, all that or shaving cream, lotion,
Right.
any of those substances are nothing more than a carrier for the dye.
Right.
So the different methods lend themselves to different, I guess, designs, for
Mm-hmm.
lack of a better term. But at the end of the day, the glue that you use or the Floetrol that you use or the lotion that you use, all it's doing is being a carrier to transfer the dye from nowhere into the plastic.
Right.
So, and I've experimented. My recipe has kind of changed on and off through time, but basically, I'm mixing um, powdered dispersed dye, colored dispersed dye, with white Floetrol, which it basically is kind of the consistency. It's a little thicker than paint and a little thinner than white glue, I would say, is about what it is. You're mixing that to basically come up with dyed colors,
Mm-hmm.
dyed Floetrol. I use a little acetone and a little denatured alcohol to kind of activate the dye, and it just stirs into the Floetrol better. I feel like when I start with a little denatured alcohol and acetone, and then add my powdered dye and I kind of want all my powdered dye to be wet
Right.
before I add the Floetrol, and then you stir for about 4.5 days. It feels like to get the Floetrol stirred up. But that seems to be if I've tried just dumping powder dye into the Floetrol, and that clumps on you pretty bad. Trying to get it all mixed in. This seems to make it
Just not
just
consistent.
yeah. And
Right.
then you'll end up getting undyed, or I'm sorry, undissolved dye in your beds, and that'll just turn into a big black smear or streak or
Right.
blob or something. So once
See.
we've
Right.
got several colors of Floetrol mixed up, we add a little silicone oil to the Floetrol, the dyed Floetrol, um, and then from there, there's almost probably as many ways to create a bed as there are different ways of dyeing. There's flip cups, dirty pours, traveling cups, split cups. Basically, at the end of the day, it's all variations. As far as cell dyes, it's all variations of acrylic pour painting. So if you're a
Right.
painter or you're an artist and you know anything about acrylic pouring, that's basically what we're doing for cell dyes. Just instead of doing your acrylic pour on a canvas and letting it dry, you're doing the acrylic pour into a pan and then laying a disc in it.
That is,
Basically,
yeah,
same principle.
that's cool. Like, just thinking about all the ways. But you said you weren't, creative or an artist. Don't lie to yourself. Like you are. You know what I mean? Like this is art.
This for me, I think I feel pretty fortunate. Like I've always wanted to be a creative person. Like I said, I wished I could
Hmm.
draw, I wished I could paint, or I wished I could play the guitar or whatever. So I think I kind of have like a creative mind.
Hmm.
Um, I take pictures. I take a lot of photos. I took some photo classes in college 1,000 years ago, and I still take a lot of photos. We played today. We had a group out playing, and I probably took well over 100 pictures while we were out playing golf today.
Right.
And that's playing golf and taking pictures. Like if I
It was
wasn't
a
playing
nice
golf and
day though.
taking pictures, but if I wasn't playing golf and taking pictures, if I was just taking pictures, I'd probably take 500 pictures, literally,
Yeah.
you know.
Just yeah.
Um, well, and see, I grew up shooting on film, and back when every picture counted because you only had 36 of them on a roll, and film cost
That
money, and you
is
had to have it
true.
developed, et cetera, et
Yeah.
Right.
cetera. And with obviously the advent of digital photography, you can go take 500 photos, and if you have two good ones, great. You delete 498 of them, and you keep the two good ones, and you
I
move on. It's
remember
fantastic.
I remember when my mom got her first digital camera. I think I had that thing way more than she did. I I was like, you can hold the button down and it takes 1,000 pictures. This is
Yep.
awesome.
And
I thought it was the greatest thing ever.
I'm
And
I'm the same, and I still am the same, and it blows my mind that now my phone has a better
it
camera
does.
than
Yeah.
I actually sold my digital SLR. Like I had an older one, wasn't great, but it worked fine. But I got to a point where I was just like, I'm tired of lugging this thing around and lugging lenses around and stuff, and I don't feel like dragging it out. And my phone takes such great photos, and it's
Yeah.
always in my pocket that I don't know what's the point of even carrying a camera
The
unless you're gonna have a $4,000 camera. I feel
right.
like I might as well just have my phone in my pocket and
The
roll with
handiness,
that.
of a phone is it's there. It's readily available whenever you want it, whenever you decide it's like, hey, this would be a good picture. You know?
Well, when I first started dyeing discs, I was super lucky. The very first disc I dyed, it came out great. I think it was an M1, a Prodigy M1
Mm-hmm.
400 white M1, and it came out great. Like it looked fantastic, and I took some pictures of it and sold it, and was like, cool. So I
Right.
dyed another one, took some pictures of it, and sold it. And initially, I had my camera set up on a tripod out in the garage. My I really have a shop kind of set up out in my garage at this point, but my garage is not heated, so now we're in the kitchen, and I have taken over the kitchen table for the winter. And my wife is just thrilled
Oh, I
about the
bet.
fact that our kitchen table is. I'm probably gonna have to sand this thing after the end of the winter because as much as I try to not make a mess, I've dyed the table a
Hey, you
couple
could
times
dye the
already.
table. Like just splatter
Yeah,
dye.
I sort of am kind of gray and blue and yellow is what we're working on right now. Um,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah,
Oh,
but
all
it
right. So you
So,
was okay. You go ahead. Go ahead, Daniel.
so why don't you go ahead and like talk to us a little bit about some of the plastics that you prefer to dye on, and maybe some of the ones you try to avoid because of why some plastics
sure.
don't take dyes as well as others, and then maybe run us through a couple of your favorite manufacturers to dye because of that.
That was my
Um,
first question, by the way. That was
y-
gonna be my question.
you guys are psychic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do
Yeah.
that
Um,
from time to time.
the kind of the rule is basically premium plastic dyes. Base plastic does not. It's kind of the general rule of thumb. There are some dyers out there that are getting some really cool looking stuff on some base plastic. I can't. I don't know if it's the style of dyeing that I do or. I mean, I've gotten some base plastic to take dye. When the new Discmania P2 prototypes came out, I dyed one of those, and what'll happen is it'll dye and then it'll just fade. So you
Right.
can barely see that it ever had some dye on it. So
Gotcha.
my absolute favorite plastic to dye is white plastic. Um,
Anything that's white.
Yeah.
White plastic just doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
When I first did these first couple 3 years ago before the pandemic and the explosion, I was able to find a couple good discs to dye, and these days, obviously with the pandemic, with the explosion in popularity of the sport and production went way, way down all over the place. Plastic in general is not easy to find, and then premium plastics harder to find, and white premium plastic is just about impossible anymore um, to find. And with that being said, it feels to me, and I've been around disc golf on and on for a very long time, but really only been really into disc golf, I'd say, for like 2.5 years or so now, since
Right.
kind of the summer of 19.
Right.
But even then, I feel like the definition of premium plastic has changed in just like the last year and a half or so. I feel like the manufacturers are just constantly coming out with new plastics all the
They
time
are.
that I can barely even keep up with, everything that comes out. And some of them die great, and for what I do, the Floetrol cell beds, some of them they don't do as well. I think white clear glue or clear glue beds, I think tend to do a little better on some of the clear plastic, like champ plastic, sea line plastic, stuff like that.
Right.
The Floetrol, I don't have as good a results with some of the more opaque plastics. They'll die, and they'll take cells, and they can get some really, really good looking cells, but they die almost like stained glass looking, um,
Right.
Right.
for the Floetrol cell beds,
Which is
which is
still
really
cool.
cool.
Right.
It
It's
is,
cool.
and
You
I
was
have some
showing me
people that
one.
love them.
Yeah, I was like, that's sick. That
I've
it
had a
looks so
couple of them
good.
come out just spectacular, and when you hold them up to the sun, they really are super, super cool.
Mm-hmm.
But just laying on the ground or laying, on a table or something, they don't kind
Right.
of pop the way White Star Plastic or S Line or ESP,
Right.
or K1, from Castoplast or whatever.
Right.
Um, that being said, I don't really have. I don't think I know a lot of dyers kind of have their one favorite plastic to dye, and I don't. White, like I said, white like Star and S Line and ESP, and I'm not a huge fan of the opaques. And I've dyed some Discmania Neo plastic, and it does pretty well. And the Lucid plastic from Trustpass does pretty well. Or the Fusion, I mean, I guess the Lucid's a little more opaque and doesn't come out
Right.
as well. So I like the premium plastic, but more of the solid
Right.
plastic,
Kind of
not
like that
the.
trespass that I gave you. Yeah.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
it's
That
because
So,
stuff
it's
dies great.
lucid, but it's just kind of
so
But it still has
white.
some color to
Right.
it. Yeah, exactly. It's not like a completely,
Championish looking.
yeah.
clear plastic.
Right.
Yeah.
So then a lot of those, basically the higher durability of the premium plastics tend not to hold those dyes quite as well.
The
That's
the
pretty much like your crystals and um,
yeah,
your
for at
champion
least for
plastic.
my method anyway, for the Floetrol, like I said, I think clear glue, kind of the bed you see that are kind of like more blown
Mm-hmm.
around looking dyes. I think they do a
Right.
little better on the. And hot dipping works great on any kind of champ plastic or a sea line or anything. I just recently, in the last couple months, got a cricket, and then just literally in like the last 2 weeks, week probably, started doing some hot dips with like the black outlines and some solid black
Right.
stuff. Done some black outlines and then done cell dyes inside of some outline stuff or just solid black, and those they die in like 10 or 15 minutes, and it takes on the champ plastic just fine. It comes out great.
Nice.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
dig those. All the work on those is doing the stencil. It's getting it set up and getting it cut and getting it weeded and all that, and then
Right. The
Right.
pre work.
drop it in the hot dye, liquid dye for 10 or 15 minutes, and it's finished. Fantastic.
So that's a quick process then.
Yeah, from a dyeing standpoint, because I do my dyes, my cell dyes, I do them under heat lamps, and I do them for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then champ plastic, I do for about 3 hours. So, and even that is a lot faster than, if you're not using any kind of heat for the most part. Most people are going like 24 hours
Right.
for
Right.
like star type plastic, and 36 or even 48, I think, for like champ plastic.
It's a
Um,
long time. But I mean, if you had a rotation, I guess it would work out pretty well where you could keep
It would.
caught up. But
Yeah, you'd have to have a lot of pans,
yeah.
because you have to have a lot of them going at once. And it becomes, that's how I did them at first for the first couple months. I did them that way, and it becomes tricky because you have to make sure that 24 hours from whenever you're dropping this disc in the bed that you're going to be around to pull it
Around,
out.
right?
I mean, there were days that it like, I work in a dinner only restaurant as my, real job. And, so on a Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock, I'd be getting ready to drop a disc in a bed and then be like, oh, no, I work tomorrow night. Like, I'm not gonna be home till like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And I don't necessarily want it to go, extra 6 or so hours. So,
Oh,
doing it with the 2 hours is a little more controlled where I can, takes me about 3 hours. If it's not a stencil, just a regular old cell die, about 3 hours roughly, start to finish.
that
Time I
surprises
sit
me.
down
I
and
honestly, like, I really didn't think that it would take any less than 8 hours. I thought it would be like a way longer process. That's cool. I didn't know that it could be a turnaround like that.
the heat makes a world of difference.
Yeah,
I was doing seedling mats for a while, and that like I said, my shop was out in the garage, so it was really hot. I was doing seedling mats, and I was having really good results. And then for the winter, I moved outside because not only was I freezing in the garage, but the dye just doesn't work when it's cold. The
right.
Floetrol doesn't like to be cold. Dye doesn't like to be cold. The plastic doesn't like to be cold. None of it'll get blurry and just kind of funky
I
and
don't like to
weird.
be
And
cold.
I'm not a big fan myself, to be honest with you. So that
Yeah.
was part of the reason I also didn't want to be out in the garage dyeing discs,
See,
with
even
three
if it
hoodies
was
and a
just
hat
me,
on.
I would have told the wife. I'd be like, "Hey, the dye just don't work out there." You know what I mean?
No matter what, it was
Yeah,
coming inside.
exactly. It's like
Yeah.
just
Um,
maybe add an R there. The dyer don't work outside.
right. The
Okay.
dyer doesn't
Yeah,
doesn't work that
exactly.
way. Yeah. Um,
I
and
I would have been in the kitchen just like that.
that's that's 100% where I am. That's
Yeah.
literally where I'm sitting right now. And we fortunately didn't really use our kitchen table anyway. We kind of always just ate in the living room. So,
Right.
and
Yeah.
the kitchen with table is just like a catch-all for a bunch of other crap. So now it's just a catch-all for a
Yeah.
bunch of dying
Any
stuff.
table. Tables. I don't even know why they're called tables. They should just be called catch-alls.
Catch-alls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
it's
completely
become a
agree.
good one. But yeah, using heat has become it was weird. Like I said, I moved from the garage back into the house to kind of get the temperatures up and kind of get things straightened out. And for like 2 months, had terrible results. Could not for the life of me figure out what was going on. Everything was coming out crazy blurry, and I was losing foils. And I was very close at one point to just saying, "To heck with this, I'm done." I had great results for 6 or 8 months, and then all of a sudden, I changed nothing about what I did except for the location and made it,
Right.
25 to 40 degrees warmer, and couldn't get results. Couldn't get results. Couldn't get results. Finally
Hmm.
reached out to a couple people online that I've kind of become a little bit friends with through this process over the last year or so of be dyeing discs, and switched to using just regular old heat lamps that you buy at Lowe's, like I buy everything else.
Right.
And the process to put a bed together for me is usually about an hour, roughly, because there's usually a good 20 minutes of not doing anything, really just kind of thinking about it and kind of thinking about what you want to do. And I tend to get lost in organizing and cleaning and straightening, and when I'm really supposed to be like trying to dye a disc, and
Right.
it's kind of this process almost of finally getting around to, and with white plastic being almost impossible to find, we've started, or everyone dyes, and I've obviously followed suit. Any premium plastic will take dye.
Right.
The thing about it is the way the plastic takes the dye is basically like mixing paint. So if you have a blue disc and you put yellow dye on it, you're going to have a green dye job.
Right.
Um, so when you have colored discs to dye, whether it's just all I could find at the store, as far as buying some discs to dye and try to sell and put in the Etsy shop or whatever the case may be, or if they're commissions, from people that have given me their discs to dye, um, anytime they're colored, it takes just a lot more thought has to go into it. If it's white, I can put any colors I feel like together pretty much, and throw them on a disc, and they'll look okay. But
Right.
when you start getting into blue discs or pink discs or yellow discs or gray discs or whatever, you have to start thinking about the color wheel and how colors interact with each other and what will work and what won't, and really kind of have a process and a little bit of a plan together before you put a bed together, because purple on blue is usually baby shit doo doo color.
Yeah.
So
Have you ever dyed a black disc with like
no,
white dye? I don't even know if that's a thing, to be
white dye
honest.
doesn't exist.
Okay.
And
It's like,
basically
no.
you can get white, and there's a couple of guys out there right now that are getting some really really cool cell dyes with white in it, and I've tried it a few times, and I'm starting to, I think, figure it out a little bit. Just
Oh.
undyed Floetrol will work as white.
Oh, okay.
On a white disc, or it'll
Oh,
work as
right.
negative space on a colored disc.
Right.
But basically, the bottom line rule of thumb is you cannot dye anything any lighter than it already is.
Right.
So if it's already black, you can absolutely not lighten that, because that black is in the plastic. It's
You would pretty much have to bleach it.
even then, I don't honestly even know if that would take.
We should try that.
You should.
Intellectual
I,
property.
I was gonna say we should try Cerakoting discs and see what
I mean,
happens.
I've got some. I
maybe
don't know
maybe
how
like
that would
a
feel. Maybe really grippy,
oh,
but
it would be really bad, and it would be so heavy too.
I'm
Or
just
maybe
gonna run up
film
from the
dip
side,
dyes.
and it might go down the fairway. How about that? Go ahead and just shank her. But
Yeah.
all right, so I got I had the pleasure of getting to play around with you before the podcast, which that was awesome. We had a great time.
I did have a good time.
The thing that I noticed is you're a Discmaniac. So go ahead and
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about why you love Discmania and or why you don't throw much of anything else.
I guess just because I like spending money. I don't know, because Discmania is
Well, I've
just
never related
absolutely.
more.
Discmania is definitely not the budget brand to be throwing these days. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I first got back into it a few years ago, I had a handful of discs still laying around, like I said, from like the late '90s and early 2000s. One of them is still in the bag. I actually showed this to Ethan. I have a first run Firebird in my bag.
Like first run this
Legit
thing.
first run Firebird.
All right. To the listeners out there, I want to put this into perspective of how beat up this first run Firebird is.
It's got chunks out of it.
It's probably a max weight disc from the start, right? You know, maybe 175 grams.
I would guess,
I
yeah.
would say it's in the 130s now. Like it was. He said, "Now this is a beat-in disc," and I was like, "Oh wow, this is a beat-in disc." You know,
People are
So
impressed it still flies.
yes,
let me ask you something. Are you willing to throw that on a cold day?
he did.
I do,
He
yeah.
did.
I'm
That's
not even sure what kind of plastic it is. I don't know if it's actually DX. I don't know if it was.
I feel like it would have broke by
I,
now if
I
it was DX.
I've had a
Or
couple
are
people tell
we?
me they think it's DX. I don't think it is. It's a little. I think it's a little flexier
You know what
and a
I
little
honestly
softer.
think it is? Is the I don't want to say this because then it's going to be even worse. But the CE plastic,
Mm-hmm.
it feels just like that.
Probably what
So
it is. Like you said,
yeah,
if it was
the
still in a bag,
Champions
it's probably
Edition.
worth. It's probably worth four figures if it had not, been
Yeah, I would say so.
absolutely beat to death.
And it's a beautiful disc too. You know what I mean? Like it was a beautiful disc. It's just
Cool, just a end of a
neat.
bar stamp,
Yeah,
white. I put a really bad spin die on it a couple times now.
I thought it
But
made it look
I'm
good.
old, and I've got a noodle arm and had the surgery last. Something that I can kind of hyzer flip and get to kind of sometimes get a little bit of a long slow turn out of it.
there you
Because with
go.
the shoulder surgery and all that, I don't have a sidearm still. I'm slowly working on getting maybe try to get a sidearm involved in the game, but until then, it's all backhand turnovers for me. So
Right.
All
the
right,
more beat they are, the more I like them.
we gotta
Uh,
interrupt you for a second.
yeah,
Chat's asking you questions.
cool.
Chat wants to know how many P2s do you own?
um, last count, I think I'm over 30.
Oh my god, that one hit me wrong. I didn't think.
Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have taken a drink right there. I almost spit that all over my
I wasn't
computer.
prepared for that.
I
I
put a
wasn't.
picture on it a while. I was 20 plus in that picture, and my buddy, uh, 2 questions. How many do you have, and was that all of them? And the answer was, I'm not sure, and no, that was not all of them. I I think if I don't have over 30, I've got close.
Yeah,
I like them.
that's impressive. And now I don't feel so bad.
Well, here's
I
what sucks though is
I
I
don't feel so bad.
really am starting to like the Rainmakers out of
Mm-hmm.
the last 2 mystery boxes. I like they're a little bit shallower than the P2s. And I think I like them, and I almost don't want to because great now I've got to start buying Rainmakers.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not going to be cheap either. P2s aren't cheap, trust me. Like
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I've I've
you know,
I've paid
I've
more than I'd
got
like to admit for
um
P2s.
I maybe I can. Oh my god! About took off my other monitor. Maybe I can work something out. If you want to go ahead and ask that other question,
Um,
statement.
yeah, Chad is also telling you, please stop flaunting that you get to play golf every weekday morning. They're
That's
really
coming from
offended.
Justin Morris.
Oh,
Um, yeah, the working nights is handy for that, especially I played with a buddy of mine this past Saturday. It was his first time out this year. That's pretty. Is it kind of the blurple?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got what is it, Flex 2 or 3?
This one
That's
is the
pretty.
Flex 2, and this one's the
Yeah,
Flex
that's what mine
3.
is. The 3. I like the 3s. They're a little smoother, and most people that I've talked to like the 2s better because they're a little grippier. But I like the 3s. So yeah,
Yeah,
we can
I just
probably.
like the color of that.
I got a Flex 2 Blurple. I
Yeah.
got a US and a Europe box, and the Europe box had the Blurple, and I was so disappointed that it was the Flex 2 because I'm kind of digging
Flex 3s.
the
the
Flex
threes.
3s as
Well,
far as what
maybe
I'm putting with. Yeah,
we can work something out on
I'm sure we
a
can
Flex 3.
work something out.
Because
Yeah,
I'm not. It's much too deep for me. Like I have
yeah, you putt with
small, tiny
very
baby
thin
hands.
rimmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, putters.
I'm
Um,
literally like the guy
Yeah,
from the Burger
the
King
guy,
commercial. It's
trying
like
to hold the
this is a
burger.
Whopper
yeah,
Junior.
the
Right,
guy,
right, right, right.
the
uh,
guy over here that told me in episode 3 that Lunas are a deep putter.
they are for me. Like
I
P2's
didn't
deep for me. Luna's
I didn't
deep for me.
understand it until I literally when we played in the Shelbyville tournament, and I was like, you really think that's a deep putter?" And he's like, "Show me your hand." And then we put like, and I have small hands. I don't have big hands. I can't like holding an NFL size football is difficult for me. And I put my hand up there, and I could have curled my fingertips over the top of the end of his
The end
fingers.
of his fingers.
I have
Yeah.
small hands. I can't help it.
And so when we did that, I was like, all right, now I understand why you think a Luna is a deep putter.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Well,
the reason that I can't throw mids good too.
did y'all see the video just recently with Paul and Hannah, where she had both of them put their hands over the edge of
Yes.
the Luna? And I mean, her fingers like barely get over the rim and touch the disc again. And I don't
Right.
think Paul necessarily has giant hands, but I mean, he's like,
Right.
3 inches down. Yeah, and she was barely getting onto
She was
the edge of the disc. Yeah,
right.
it was like the rim was so deep she could barely even get
I don't know how she was
in there.
throwing it. Like, but she was. That was that buzz too, right?
I thought it was a Luna
It may have been a
Yeah.
Luna.
that they were
I
holding.
know.
Yeah,
She power grips everything though, so she can kind of
Yeah.
get away with shifting her hand a little bit more forward.
right.
By the way,
I
I was
don't think she
impressed
throws a
with the
fan
way
grip.
that she played during that round. She kind of carried.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, get it. But yeah,
I'm sure she practices a little bit.
yeah. But she's not really interested in the competitive play. She just wants to
You
do
know,
media, and that's
I
actually
would too.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think she's good at it.
She's
She's
great
really
at it.
grown on me. I
Um,
think she does a really good job, and obviously typically has a little insight that probably a lot of us don't,
yeah,
you
that
know,
definitely
necessarily
does help.
get
And
to have.
she is like the perfect complement to everyone. Like
Yeah,
she can make it work with anybody, and that's kind of like Germ, Big
Right.
Germ.
yep.
I feel like he can just kind of make it work.
But my favorite thing about her is that she has probably some of the best sneaky smack talk.
Oh, she
Yeah,
does. She'll
Like
yeah.
lay
it's
something down, and
it's
you'll be like,
kind of like
I feel like that was
like when
supposed
you
to be
listen to the
red.
the practice rounds or some of the, like the putting games and stuff that Calvin Heimberg does, like he
Mm-hmm.
is such a sneaky smack talker and he does it
Oh yeah.
so well. And she's
Yeah.
just like that. It's
It's
hilarious.
almost like he's talking to himself about someone else. You know
Him
what I
and
mean? But he's
Dickerson.
like, is that dude talking about me? You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Dickerson can talk smack with the best of them
oh
too. That
yes, he
you
can.
don't
But
really see until he loosens up in like some of the practice rounds or the
Mm.
skins matches and stuff. And
he's
man,
he's really funny
he can
too.
throw it. He is.
He
His
he does a
skins
lot of it.
games are funny.
He does like third person
Hmm.
like smack
Like
talk too.
detached.
Like he'll like say it to somebody else or
Yeah,
what was it? They just did that that skins match on Jomez
with
not that
Zach
long ago that
Melton.
they recorded.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Him
where
between him and Zach. Oh
Him
my
and Zach
god,
are fantastic together.
they
You can
are.
tell that they've obviously just been playing for years and
Yeah,
years and years and years together,
right
they're
eh,
so
and they're
funny.
great together on camera.
I felt
who
bad.
was I can't remember who it was that he was talking to though, and he goes over and he's lining up his putt, and he was out there with his dog, and he looks down at his dog and he says, "Hang on, honey, get out of my way. I got to make him look bad." And then he just drains a putt that
Yeah.
was just missed by the other guy. And I was like, that is the funniest smack talk I've ever heard in my life.
So
He just smack talked to his dog
yes, that was
about somebody else. That was
it. Was him, Zach, Luke Sampson, and
yeah, it was Thomas
Thomas
Gilbert.
Gilbert.
Thomas
Yep,
Gilbert.
you're
Yep.
right.
Thank you,
That's
chat.
who it was.
Appreciate you.
Boom. Way to go, chat.
Chat's on
Coming in.
top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he literally he looks down at his dog. He's like, "Hang on, I got to make Thomas look bad."
I love it
Um,
though.
I don't think
So
I ever actually answered your question as to why I throw Discmania.
no,
Other
we
than the
kind of
fact that it's
we do
expensive.
that.
We got yeah, that's dude, trust me, I'm all good. Uh, I threw a bunch of different stuff when I first started throwing. I threw Prodigy and I threw some Innova and I threw some Discmania and I threw some Trilogy stuff and never really picked up any Discraft. I don't really know why, just didn't.
Right.
And I liked Prodigy and I liked Discmania. Because I like the letter number system for their discs. A lot of people hate that. They think it's the most unoriginal thing in the world, but I just think going MD3 for a mid-range driver 3 is just makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Right.
And I think that was kind of made it a little bit easier in the beginning as opposed to trying to figure out what the hell the numbers were on a Wraith and a
When
Stingray and
I first
a
started,
Raptor and whatever
right.
else.
When I first started, I would get Discmania and Prodigy confused a lot because of that reason. You know,
You know,
Yeah.
they almost
and
could be the same disc.
right, like
This
they
Mania
fly the
added
same
the
too.
second letter, kind of like, Prodigy
Right.
was D1, where Discmania was DD1,
DD.
and
Yeah.
Prodigy's M1, and the
MD.
other thing is Prodigy goes the other way. The higher the number in Prodigy, the less stable. With Discmania, typically the higher the number, the more stable.
I
Is what
honestly
I
Yeah,
think
didn't
like
that
know
makes
if you
that.
if you look at like all their mid ranges, the numbers except for the MD3, the new MD3 doesn't do this, but almost every other number correlates directly to the amount of fade they stamp on their disc.
yeah,
Okay.
MD1 is a 0-1, and the old MD3s were 5503s. The
Yes.
some of the really old ones, and the new ones are retooled as 5502s, but um, yeah, it just it made sense to me, and I don't know, I just kind of like the plastic, I guess. And a buddy of mine threw a bunch of Discmania, and I I don't know, I like Simon. He's super fun
He's one of my favorites as
to,
well.
to
He
watch
he
play, and the personality, and I think he's got more talent in his pinky than most of the rest of the disc golfers on the planet will ever have. And
yeah. And you know,
I love watching him in practice rounds because he always has this like you almost can't tell if he's having fun in a practice round when he's playing with other people because he almost looks like he's mad to be there, but he's having fun and
yeah.
he's saying great stuff and he's doing hilarious stuff. But if you watch the camera like pan across, I think it like I really noticed it in the practice round with Coling and Paul. There was a moment, a couple of different times in that particular episode where they panned across him, and he looked like he wouldn't rather be there. Like he could have been anywhere else, and he would have been happier.
that was what I agree with you 100%. And that's one of the very few times I think I've ever seen Simon on camera that he did not seem like he was having a
Yeah.
very good time there. Was that prior to him taking time off? Was he having
I think
That
that
That was
was
right
no,
it
before
was.
USDGC, wasn't it?
yeah, pretty close. But that was right after he took some time off because he got stuck in
He missed
Canada.
Canada for
Maple Hill,
quarantine.
and then was Green Mountain Championship. It was Green Mountain Championship was what the practice round was
Yeah.
for,
Yep.
because he
It
was
was.
playing Brewster Ridge.
Brewster Ridge, yeah.
Yeah,
And he did not look terribly excited on that,
yeah,
but
no, and
But
he was playing it awesome. You know what I mean? It was just like he was ripping it.
but but I mean, when he was talking and when he was throwing, you could tell he was having a great time. But I've noticed it even in his on his own YouTube. Every now and again, the camera will pan across his face, and
He's just like,
he's
meh.
got like a he's got like a dead
glaze.
eyes.
Yeah,
It's almost like an RBF, like what you see out of women. It's almost like he has that sometimes. It's hilarious.
He just throws a disc with like the most effortless disc golf throw I've ever seen in my life. I mean,
it it does
and
look so smooth.
it blew my mind. He said a while ago on Vlogmas that he's never been interested in doing lessons or teaching or anything because he said he's been throwing a frisbee since he can't remember not throwing one. He said, I don't remember learning how to
Right,
play disc golf, so I don't feel like I can teach people how to play disc golf because I just know how. I just know. It was like Beethoven and the piano. It was just like I know
right.
that if I need the disc to go here, this is the angle and how hard I got to throw it on, and he can just do it. It's really
And for him,
pretty amazing.
a lot of the angles and discs are going to be way different than most of the people that are wanting to learn from Simon. You know, where he can throw a
Yeah,
max spike hyzer, we would have to throw Anheuser. It's just like
yeah.
it. It's
Be
way
like
different.
trying to get Eagle to teach you how to throw sidearms. You know.
Oh gosh.
Here, take the
Uh,
most overstable disc on the planet, and you just throw it really freaking hard. Oh, okay.
Yep.
You know, it's just a whole
Yeah.
different
The
world.
oh
uh,
so
yeah. Why don't you show us some of the dyes? I know you've got a couple to show us today. Why
Yeah,
don't you
I've got a
show us
few.
some cool stuff?
I really don't have a whole lot, and that's I guess a good and a bad thing.
pumping them out.
Well, I've had a lot of commissions
That's
for the
awesome.
last probably say obviously around the holidays I didn't do a whole lot of dyeing. You know, everybody's busy and wasn't the best time to be using the kitchen table for stuff. Um,
Hey, honey,
so
you need the turkey dyed?
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, kid wants to make cookies.
Do we want a
Bummer.
blue
Yeah,
or
you want a
a
blue cake? Because I
green?
got lots of cake pans with dye in them. You know, sitting over here. Um, so typically I usually try to have a fair amount of stuff up in my Etsy shop. But right now I don't have a whole lot because I've just been really doing so many commissions, which you know I'm not complaining about that at all. Obviously, commissions are I think one of the best compliments you can possibly get
Mm-hmm.
as any kind of artist. What you know, whether you're a chef or
Yeah.
a painter or whatever, anybody that says, you know, here's my disc, I want you to dye
Yeah,
it.
it's like I personally pick you. I choose
Yeah.
you, and that's the
Yeah,
way it goes.
seriously. Yep. I've got a
It's
guy that I've done 7 or 8 discs for now, and
yeah,
it just it makes me happy. And most of the time, he just hands me a disc, and I'm like, you know, what do you want done? And you know, I'll take notes and you know whatever. And he's like, whatever,
yeah.
just do your thing. Just you
That's
know,
kind of the way I was
do you.
too. I was like, there was a couple of them. I was like, yeah, let's do this and this, and then I was like, use your mind.
Just dye them. Yeah,
Yeah, I
which
was like, I don't care.
is the best. That's my favorite thing to do, obviously. But so I've got a couple cell dyes here. This is
Ooh,
kind of hard to
no, we
this
can
ring
see
light
it.
is.
That's nice.
So that's
That
a
looks so good with the foil too. A force.
yeah. Well, it's a blue disc. So that's talking about, you know, so blue disc, kind of just blues obviously work great
Right.
and just a few different blues in there. And probably a little purple too. And that foil, yeah, it's kind of like a water foil,
Yeah, it really kind of
waterfall
makes those,
foil.
it's almost like bubbles. It
Yeah.
almost makes them pop. And that's really
Yeah.
cool.
I really dig that a lot. And then this was kind of similar. They probably were the same bed.
Right? Well, that one's got a
Can't
little spin dial on the back
guarantee
too, I
it.
believe.
Yeah, this one. Most of the rims, I spin the rim of both of the back of most
That looks
of
so
my
good though.
discs. It started from when you put a disc down in the bed, and it sits in there. Um, it, you put it down on an angle like this to kind of, hopefully you're pushing any air bubbles out this way and not getting a
Right.
bunch of air bubbles
Right.
trapped. And it's really hard, and I've gotten better at it, but it's very hard to not get this back edge under the dye bed and get a little
Right.
bit of dye up onto the rim of the disc while it's sitting there. And this one actually looks like it came out pretty clean, which is impressive. But it started with me just spinning the back of them to kind of cover up, where you'd have a dye leak kind of run over the back edge. And I'd put something on there, or I'd do the whole thing or something. And I had a couple people were like, "Oh, that's really cool. You do that." So it kind of has just become something that, I pretty much do
I
on
love it. I really
I think
dig.
most of them.
I
Oh
think it's
my
beautiful.
god, that one looks so good. Kale Levisca M4.
I really dig this.
It's
This was a
cosmic. That's
this was
so
a glue
cool.
mask, so I glued off
Hmm.
this whole center here. But I left kale, so I
In the
dyed
dye.
kale and then glued off all this to not take dye. Um, just trying to
Awesome.
like bring some focus to that
I
that kale in the center. Otherwise, it's easy to sometimes almost get lost
That
in
dye makes me want to throw it in for. All right,
that cell dye.
that's yeah, that was awesome.
I used to throw a lot of M4s, and then started throwing Discmania, so more like MDs now. But um,
Right.
yeah, and some of them I'll go like, I mean, I'll do spins all the way in almost to the center of the disc, just depending on kind of what kind of mood I'm in. If I'm out there in the garage with the turntable and I get to putting circles on them, sometimes all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, you probably should slow down, buddy. You're getting a little
You don't
Right.
happen to
getting a
have
little out of control here.
you
Yeah.
don't happen to have
So
that Raptor on you, do you?
Raptor.
Yeah, there's an ESP Raptor on your shop.
Ah, well then I should.
He's like, well, maybe
I've
somewhere
got
around
my
here.
little stack here. I mean, unfortunately, I'd like to say I have like 50 discs laying around, but I don't. I have an Onyx.
Speaking of which, Daniel, you want to go ahead and shout that
Um,
Etsy shop out?
Yeah, it's actually what I was gonna do here. While he's looking for that, guys, I'm gonna shamelessly plug all of them. He is on Facebook, he is on Instagram, and he is on an Etsy shop. All of them, Shakedown Dyes. Please go and check those out. Hopefully, he finds this ESP Raptor
You want some cool stuff?
absolutely gorgeous tie dye swirl
That's so. It's
on
so
that
like,
Raptor.
yeah, that looks so. It's like,
that was
so
kind of a
think about it
cream.
if you were drunk driving through the city,
Yeah,
and it's like the blurs of
woo,
everything.
flying past
You
you.
know,
Yeah,
it's just like
Yeah.
that, and that's
Yeah,
that's
he's got
that's
a couple
awesome.
of really gorgeous onyx on there. He's got a couple of beautiful maltas. So really, if you guys get the chance, head to his Etsy shop. He doesn't have a whole lot right now, but everything he has is absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
Um,
And
so
huge thanks to you also for doing the giveaway with us.
absolutely, man. Happy to.
We did a giveaway over on our Instagram for this disc right here, and it's absolutely sick. It's a Glow Axiom Insanity Halloween 2021 special edition, and this thing is awesome. It really is. Like,
That came out really, really cool because
it
that was
did.
another one I glue masked. So the stuff on the front there that's not dyed will still glow.
Right.
So like that
that's awesome.
face still glows, and the back will still glow. So that thing's still there. I had some pictures
I don't know
in
if
my
this will work
little
or not.
homemade light box.
Nope, it doesn't work.
Not quite. It was lighting up the back of the light box because the back of that disc was glowing
Yeah. My
so
discs
much.
look so weird back there. It looks like they're trying to kill me.
Look
All right.
at
There's
that
that
swirly
onyx.
onyx.
Oh yeah,
That's a really cool rim.
that is a very cool rim.
Kind of minimal. It's just kind of like some thin lines and used kind of the color of the plastic to complement
Oh,
Right.
the
it pops
dye,
beautifully.
instead of just doing all dye on there, kind of did some purple and then left the blue come through for the
That's
complementary
so cool.
color.
I know you. Um, I know. Everybody that is watching live, you can see all of this, and it is obviously amazing, but for the people that are listening, post, just go check these discs out over at Shakedown Dyes. They're so good. Um, he posts pretty regularly. I don't know why that word was so hard for me, but but you know, interact, engage. You know, if you have something that you're wanting to get done, shout him out. Just reach
Yeah,
out.
definitely. Like we said, on the Etsy shop doesn't have a ton right now, though. Couple really sweet Discraft discs in there. That couple Onyxes and the Raptor and a Force. But please don't ever hesitate to reach out. Facebook message or Instagram message. I'm more than happy to do commissions that way. I've had a handful of people reach out through Facebook or Instagram and
Right.
just say, hey, I'd love for you to dye me a disc. What can I do? And I just, mail it to me, and we'll work out a price, and that'll include shipping back to you, and work really closely with everybody. Ethan, you'll get to know this here in the next probably few days, because once I get into actually dyeing, people's disc commissions, that if they're not just here, do whatever.
Right.
Um, I probably sometimes over communicate, but once it's dyed, I can't undye it. So I
Right.
try to stay in pretty close contact with whoever I'm dyeing disc for,
I
to
feel
really
like
make
that just
sure
shows
we're
that
on
you
the
care a
same
little more.
page.
That's the way that I would, perceive it.
Sure.
So I definitely don't see a problem with that at all. You know.
Most people are really happy about it. Obviously, I
Hmm.
think most people would rather have too much communication than not enough, and then get a disc that either they're not happy with, or it's just not what they were looking for or wanted, or they thought we had discussed, or
Right.
whatever the case may be. And I try to be very realistic with people, and if it's something I don't feel like I can do, I've been doing this about a year, and I'm decent at it, and still learning all the time. And if it's something I'm just like,
Right.
and I've got some friends that are like, I don't care, here, try it, do it anyway, and that's
Right.
great, because then I can
That gives
try
you
it.
practice. Yeah.
Absolutely, but if it's somebody that's wanting to pay me to do, a dye job on their disc, and it's something I don't know that I can do, or some people have reached out with some color choices that they've wanted to do on some stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, I can't do that. Maybe there's
Right.
somebody out there that can do that for you with that disc, but I can't turn your red disc, light yellow. It just,
Right.
Right.
I'm not able to. But I'll be super honest and upfront with people about that stuff too. I'm not trying to just take on a bunch of work just to dye this, or just obviously to take money, or something. I would love for maybe one day this is kind of more the full-time gig.
Yeah.
We'll see
That would be
how that
awesome.
goes. But for now, I do have a real job that I go to at least 4 days a week.
Right.
And just so this is kind of a
Absolutely.
combination of a passion project and a hobby, and a little bit of a business entity. And I try to, I don't know, I just try to treat people obviously the way I'd want to be treated. I had somebody bought a disc of mine off of Etsy last summer. It was for her boyfriend or husband, I forget which, and I had sent a handful of discs out that day, and I sent her the wrong tracking number. Like, I'd
Right.
sent her tracking for a disc that went one place, and somebody, like vice versa. So after a few days, I get a message from her on Etsy saying that the disc has been delivered, but she doesn't have it, and it's been delivered in Chicago. And I'm like, oh crap.
Right.
So I start doing some digging, and I find out that I had given her the wrong tracking number. So no problem, get the correct tracking number, and figure it out.
Right.
And this is 4 or 5 days later, and the disc still has not been scanned in to USPS. Like, the label had been created. I do everything at home through pirate ship, and the label had
Right.
been created, and but it hadn't shipped. And so the next day, I talked to my mail lady, who I've gotten to know pretty well over the last year with the amount of packages I'm sending and getting. But basically, MIA. It hadn't been scanned in at any point by USPS. And this poor girl's just beside herself, because it's a birthday present or something
Right.
for her significant other. And I worked very closely with her, and worked really, really hard, and ended up being able to locate another disc, the same color, dye it similarly. There's absolutely no
Right.
two of a kind with cell dyes. Like, that's just not an option. Um, and sent it to her, no cost. I mean, she had already paid for a disc through the Etsy shop, and basically that disc came out of my pocket, because
Right.
that disc initially, and I check that tracking number every once in a blue moon. I'll think of it. And I'll go onto pirate ship and find her name and get the tracking number and put it into USPS and be like, hey, is it? Nope, nothing. It still just says
It just
like
got lost,
label
or
waiting to be created, or yeah, or the postman thought that
it was
he would
awesome.
like to have the disc or
I
something.
mean,
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't blame him. The
But that
postman,
was,
the
my
postman's
thing. I mean, it
like,
was a
"This is sweet.
yeah, this sounds like a
I'm gonna go
frisbee.
throw it."
But I felt terrible, that
Yeah,
this girl that she had went out of her way to find a really cool dyed disc for her significant other, and she wasn't going to have the disc, and I just did everything I could to make it right for her so
yeah,
that she had the disc to give
yeah,
to her
that's
guy or whatever.
awesome.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
Yep.
Just
Well,
kind of how I try to do things,
Yep.
so
yeah. Well, we want to thank you very much for being on the show. We're going to start moving forward a little bit. Again, if you're willing and able, you are more than welcome to stay with us throughout the rest of the show and pitch in on anything that we talk about and give us your 2 cents. If you have to go, that's totally fine as well. But we'd be more than happy to hear what you have to say as we start running through a couple of topics. We don't really have too much to talk about today. We're going to go over my personal tournament recap, and then at that same tournament, we're going to talk about some of the FPO side. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Maricopa Open, as well as a little bit of some FPO dominance by some Jennifer Allen lady, whoever that is.
Right.
We're going to talk a little bit about the LVC. There's just one particular topic we're going to cover. We have a small game to play at the end of this, and then we're going to give our Super Bowl predictions. So hopefully
sounds
you guys
good.
stick around and keep listening to us. So we'll go ahead and start off with my tournament recap. I played at the Knoxville Ice Bowl this last week, and let me tell you, it is the coldest tournament I have ever played in my entire life. And a couple weeks ago, Shelbyville was cold, and this was colder. It had literally snowed all night long. Not a whole lot actually stuck and stayed on the ground, but for my first rounds, all of the tee pads were super icy. Um, I shot pretty poorly, especially on that course, but I was not playing my normal game plan because I couldn't get good footing on those tee pads, and it unfortunately happened to be the wooded course. There was no, like, I couldn't take it off the side of the tee even if I wanted to because there's just no good footing around those tee pads off the tee. So I ended up throwing a lot of discs that I normally wouldn't, throw in fairway drivers to get some extra distance where I would normally throw a mid range. I mean, I usually only throw a driver on that course maybe 3 times in the entire course. And I ended up throwing at least a fairway driver at 10 times. So
Right.
I was well outside of my element. I slipped on 8 tee pads and took a bogey on every hole that I slipped on. I got a couple of pretty good birdies in there, but yeah, it was just some tough conditions, and I decided that my health was not above my or was not below my score, and I wasn't going to risk my body to make what should have been the correct throw. So I wasn't too worried about it. Still had a lot of fun. Second round, we went out there, and my driving was immaculate. I put myself in great positions most of the tournament. I think I really only had 2 or 3 bad drives, and only one of those was a really errant drive um, on a hole that was probably one of the only holes you can't have an errant drive on. Uh,
That's the way
but
it
my
usually goes.
putting, yeah, my putting in the first round was kind of eh. It was super cold. I could barely even feel my discs with even with my hand warmers and everything. I probably should have brought gloves to keep them warm. But the second rounds, man, I had 8 spit outs or spit throughs. And let me tell you what, I even had somebody on my card look at me and say, "Man, that Luna does not want to go in the basket at all." And he was putting with a Luna too, and his were going in. Mine weren't. It was a rough time, but he literally looked at me. He's like, "Your Luna does not want to go in that basket." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." Take away from the fact that my driving was immaculate for most of the rounds, and I knocked down a lot of really good putts that just didn't go in. And as we talked about last week, I'm switching over to EV7. I'm gonna start putting with the fees. I literally walked up to the mobile store that was posted at the starting hole of this tournament, and I bought 2 brand new fees. Um, literally as soon as we finalized our card, because I was
Yeah.
like, this 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 Luna is going in the trash, man.
He's like, I
so
am swapping from the Lunas, and I'm not looking at a disc catcher ever again.
I swear if I have to look at a disc catcher basket again in my entire life, I will never crap talk Prodigy baskets ever again. You guys have heard me talk about Prodigies and how they spit you out. I have never been so demoralized by a basket in my life as I was this weekend. And this is my rant for the week. I just want you guys to know that we've talked about how, Innova's had some internal issues recently. I felt like their discs haven't been consistent lately. You know, they don't post the stability that they either have in the past or what their flight numbers are. They're all over the place right now. And these disc catcher baskets are a part of my new hatred for Innova.
Imagine Tennessee State doubles. Imagine that they have the disc catchers.
But I'm not gonna feel so bad about that because I've got you with me, so you'll knock down everything I miss
Okay,
anyways.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's gonna be
but
cold for that one too.
Yeah, it will be. It
hope
will
not.
be.
Well, it depends. If it
Yeah,
was this cold, I
sadness.
mean, it was 15 degrees until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it finally warmed up to above 20. And
When
Yeah,
we
that's
headed out for Shelbyville, it was 12, and we teed off. It was 15, but it rose
yeah,
somehow.
and it was
Didn't feel like it.
the one thing too about Shelbyville is it was not breezy until the second round. So the second round ended up feeling colder than the first round. It was
Yeah.
not that way at this tournament. It was a 10-mile-an-hour wind in 15-degree weather. I think the feels like temperature with the wind chill was showing like 5 degrees. So
Yeah.
it was cold.
brutal.
I was
But
miserable.
yeah,
I
yeah,
took my coat off for the second round because I just had a foot long from Subway. I was like,
oh yeah.
I need a little extra, a little extra room.
Well,
And
yeah, in the first round of Shelbyville, I took my sweatshirt off for the entire first round. I kept
yeah,
it on the entire
I
second
was
round
like, this
because it was
man's
windy.
crazy. What are you doing? Like trying to
Yeah,
be the
yeah,
Rock over here?
yeah.
Jesus.
I don't know, but yeah, I did notice. I mean, my all of my discs in the second round of this tournament were literally just rocks. I I'm I'm pretty sure on our players page in the Knoxville area on Facebook, we had 3 different people post a picture of their shattered disc that they
Shattered
lost in the
discs.
tournament. That's not a joke.
I've only done that
But
once. It was
yeah,
very
no,
sad.
there's a lot of good stuff for me to look forward to. Even though I posted what was a 10 over on that second course. If you take all of the spit outs and actually put them in the basket, I was only 2 over, and I would have knocked down 3 really good birdies out there. I missed 2 of the birdies that I should have got. It wasn't like bad throws, but I was mid circle 2, which is not my strong suit.
Right.
But
Justin,
Mine
outside of
either.
that,
Justin
go-
asks, what division are you guys in at Tennessee State Dubs? We are in the MA3, the RIC division.
yeah, they think it's rec intermediate
Oh yeah,
combined
I
for
think it
the
is. Yeah,
Tennessee State
REC
Dubs.
intermediate. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then advanced and
we're
open.
Yeah.
I got sucked
yeah,
into playing advanced, and I'm
Oh
not an
yeah.
advanced player, so this should be really interesting.
yeah, and I'm gonna be
It'll be a good
honest.
time though.
It's
We're
a
just
great time.
Yeah.
I love playing that tournament, but I'm not an advanced player. My buddy that I'm playing with definitely is. He's a really, really good player, and we have a great time playing together. But
I've
I'm
never
yeah,
played
definitely
that
a little out of
course
my
at
league.
Woodbury. I
yeah,
haven't been able to play that course yet.
At Short Mountain,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah,
so it's at the distillery.
hmm
yeah,
Okay,
yep.
yeah,
The
yeah, that's right.
short and long courses there at the distillery, the Red Apple course and White Lightning, I think the
Yeah.
other course is
I
called.
think we play. Is it the intermediate and the rec play both on the Red Apple, or do we play one of each?
no, it's one of each for all
Okay.
divisions, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I played Rec the last time I think, and we played one of each. We played the short one first and the long one second when I played
Right.
Yeah,
a couple years ago. I'm not sure what
yeah, and I mean
the
for
rotation is this year.
for us, we're going to go out there and play as best as we can, but we're really out there to go have some fun and represent Tennessee 2's
Right.
disc golf podcast out there.
Yep.
Hopefully we can, kind of talk to the other cards and the guys on the cards about it and say hello, come check us out, that sort of stuff. Um, you know, and just have a lot of fun out there. I don't get to play a whole lot of doubles tournaments, so it's a really really fun one for me.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
don't either, and I love playing doubles. It's definitely a lot of fun, and I'm with you guys. Just all of us, I guess, trying to build a brand and grow a
Right.
brand, and
The more you're out
especially at
there.
my age, it's weird to be growing a brand via social media. Trying to
Right. I mean,
work on
it's
Instagram
not though.
posts, and I spent 30 minutes the other night trying to time the music in a reel to, for the beat to drop right when I was doing something in the thing, and I was just
By
like,
the way,
Right?
no wonder these
I
people spend
noticed
so much
that.
damn time online.
No,
Thank you.
I did notice that actually, and I was
The
like,
beat dropped right as the funnel
"Yep,"
came up. Yeah,
and I was
that
like, "Hmm." So that got me intrigued, and then I had to ask the question. I was like, "But by the way, you didn't answer it. I need to know." It was a red, yellow, blackish gray style dye, and I was like, if you were gonna name a drink after that,
oh,
what you
that's
just
great.
poured all out of the funnel, what would it
Yeah.
be?
Um, it would have to be lava something.
Yeah,
I
it'd
don't
have to
know
be
because
lava something.
it was definitely a very lava-y um bed. I don't even remember what I was dying.
Lavishly lava.
Lavish
Call
lava.
Lavish
call
lava. That's what we're
I was
going
gonna
with.
call it the magma spill.
I
There
mean,
you go. I like that.
that's pretty good too.
I like it. I like it.
um,
Hopefully,
so
100%, Justin, for sure. We will be
yeah,
there.
hopefully we'll get carded together. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
So at the rest of the tournament, the open division, unfortunately, Chris Dickerson did not make it out to this tournament when they had announced that it was going to snow literally all night,
He
which
don't
was
want to wreck that new
Thursday.
Discraft RV, man.
No,
Yeah, I don't blame him.
I
I
wouldn't
kid you,
either.
I kid you, when the players meeting came out on YouTube and he mentioned that it is supposed to snow all night long, Chris Dickerson's name disappeared immediately. So they had a little ice bowl up like 20 minutes from where he lives anyways, and he went up there, and I think Zach Melton actually joined him up there at that one.
He did.
So they both hit aces out there, had a great
Oh yeah,
time.
that's right. I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
So Colby Childress down here in the Knoxville area ended up taking down the win in the open division with a 17 under, which is really good score for that division. Not, fantastic, but really good. Um, I think of the same layout last year, Chris Dickerson posted like a 23 down, but the conditions last year were much better than this year, to be
Right.
fair.
So with the
So,
conditions, this might
um,
have been a
you know, yeah,
23.
and I mean, yeah, and still when you look at it too, that's over 1,000 rated at both courses. The scores that he posted. So I mean, he had a great day out there. Um,
Heck yeah.
hoping he makes it out to a little bit more touring this year. Last year he played a couple of Pro Tour events and he qualified for USDGC, came in 84th. So he's really looking to probably put
Nice.
in a little bit more work this year. So congrats to Colby for taking down the win there.
Congrats.
And in the Open Women division, um, Macy Valadiaz came out and took a W. So good way for her to start her season. I did predict her earlier this year to be the most improved.
You did. That
So
is
I'm
recorded.
hoping this is going to be a nice little catapult for her to get ready for the season. You know, and then Heather Young came in just one stroke behind. They were both within one stroke of each other,
The
literally
entire tournament.
the entire tournament, and that's
That
not
that
even a
had to be
joke.
so much fun for them. Just
Oh,
battling it
absolutely.
out, tit for tat. Just bam, 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 bam,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
because Heather Young was in the lead after the first
Yes,
round, because
and
I
the
noticed that,
only
and then I seen a little two stroke swing, and that's all it took.
yeah, and the only thing I can say about that is the course that they played, the second course that they played, does not favor a left-handed player. So
Right.
Mm,
for Heather Young, that's probably where she lost a couple of those strokes. There's really only 3 or 4 holes on that entire course that favor the lefty side or a forehand. Everything else is pretty backhand dominant. So I don't want to say that that's the reason, but
Right.
that definitely could have been a factor for her, because she definitely took the lower score on the first course, which has no dominant side. Pretty much plays the same for both sides. But you'd predicted that she would be the putting queen for the year.
I
So
did. I predicted Heather
hope
Young being the
She's
putting
lights
queen.
out with a putter.
She
yeah.
is.
So just I'm going to assume, obviously I couldn't watch it because I was on a different course at the time, but I'm going to assume she didn't lose because of her putting, and that just a couple of the shot shapes probably got in her way
Some
and
that she
gave
couldn't
her
reach, maybe, where she
exactly.
had to play position golf.
I don't, yeah, and
Being
they
a
both
Well, and
played.
lefty.
especially if she was having to throw lefty sidearms, if it was
Right.
right hand, backhand dominant, she obviously doesn't throw it real far to begin with. And then if
Right.
Yeah,
she's getting forced into
and
throwing sidearms, which are typically not going to be as far, it might have been a little
and
tough.
yeah,
Right.
and a couple of them too. Like there's at least three holes that I can think of that um the left where a left hand forehand would even be difficult. Just like it would almost be easier to play a right or a left hand backhand turnover just because of the distance and the shape particularly. So I can imagine the second course was a little bit tougher on her than for
Right.
Macy. But congrats to Macy going out there and
Yeah.
taking that win. Good way to open up the season for her. Um, Obviously, we're expecting both of them
That's
to
her
go
home
out and
course, correct?
no,
She's from Morristown, so I didn't know.
no. Macy's home course would be probably Panther State Park, or I can never remember the name of this course, but it's the course that Chris Dickerson played a few weeks ago in his first video
Discraft
Discraft
video.
round. It would be one of those two courses.
Winged deer,
I couldn't tell you.
something like that.
I've played Panther Creek. I have not played that one though. So,
Right.
but yeah.
Right. Well,
So congrats to them.
congratulations to everybody.
On the other side of the world, not really
That's
the
what it
country,
seems. Yeah.
um, down
Step
where
back a little bit there, bud.
they had warm weather, albeit very windy on the first day out at the Maricopa Open.
I
Adam,
early enjoyed.
go ahead.
No. The wind,
Yeah,
it made them look normal. You know what I mean? Like
it made us feel better, but then we realized that we would have gone out there in that wind
I
and
would have
looked
got
so much
smacked off the
worse.
tee pad after I just threw a.
I would,
I would
yeah,
have threw my drive and my disc would have came back and smacked me in the face.
yeah. Um, Adam Hammis, no surprise going out there taking that course down. I think this is what his third or fourth year in a row winning that.
3 in a row, I think,
Yep.
is what they
Yep.
said.
So congrats to him. He looks poised to have a really good memorial, I would imagine.
Yeah.
He performed really well on both courses that you're going to see out there. So I'd imagine that he's going to have a good memorial.
He played well
Having,
last week too, and just
Shelly
lost by a
Sharp.
stroke or two to
Yeah.
AB, right? Yeah.
Yep.
yep,
He ended up in a tie for fifth last week.
Last week.
4 strokes down, but they said over the past 6 rounds that he's played, he's been averaging like 1041 to like 1037 rated rounds.
yeah.
That's
So
really good.
That'll get it
I
done.
mean, Adam. I mean, that guy came out hot with the wind, which obviously, if you guys don't know, weather conditions do affect ratings.
They do. I didn't
Actually,
know that until just recently.
yeah. So because of the wind, even though he posted a 57, that still ended up being rated 1053. So I mean,
Ooh.
that's the only one who did it better was Barella, who was one down of him, and that ended up being a 1060 rated.
Burrell,
Jeez.
AB's out there getting it too.
I can see AB
He
having
is,
a pretty breakout year this year.
I hope
yeah.
so.
AB
He
really
needs it,
struggled
you
in the
know.
third, and this is the thing about Barella that he needs to nail down is the third round collapses because he had
Right.
one this week, and the third round was the best conditions that they
Yep.
saw
Yep.
out for the tournament, and it was the
He
only
had a few bad
rounds.
holes and he was done.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He just kind of
It's
gave up.
it's a par 63, and he posted a 62 on round 3. So he needs to nail down those final rounds, but he did it a little bit better last week. Hopefully, this is just going to be a fluke for him this season in terms of round 3 collapses, and he can
Right.
nail it down.
I hope
Um,
so. Because
yeah,
I even noticed it like on the putting game. Did y'all watch the Jomez Pro putting games?
yeah.
The
And the
one with
putt,
AB, like
He was not
he, he,
interested,
he
man.
just
he was
wasn't.
not there.
He
He wasn't
wasn't.
present. He was not present for
And
that.
Not at all.
I was like he's cool to have there, but like it doesn't make the video as good. I feel like I feel
No,
like
I
that
don't
was
know if
one
he
of their
just
weaker
didn't care
episodes.
or yeah. And it's a
Yeah,
shame because I thought it was one of the best
It
setups
was
yeah,
a
because I
little putt
dug the
putt.
idea that it was actually
Yeah,
like a putting course, not
yeah,
completely tricked up and rigged up and like all the other ones
right,
have been. They've been very unique and different, but I thought this was really cool that it was an actual like disc golf course, but
right.
putting and man, AB can putt lights out, dude. And I don't
He
know if it just
can.
he
Uh,
started off, not so great, and he got a couple letters, I think, pretty quick, and he was almost like the same thing as the
exactly. It's
the
just like
third
a
round
common thing.
collapses.
yeah.
He was just
Well,
kind of done.
and that was, for me, I got to be honest, that's really funny to see because I mean that's something you don't want to see if you watch the putting game this last week.
I was
Um,
just thinking the exact same
he
thing, and I was thinking,
literally,
do we spoil it or do we not?
Right.
Because
A lot of people probably haven't seen it yet.
there
if
was
you
a good
guys,
comeback,
yeah, if
great
you
comeback.
guys have not seen it, I'm not going to spoil too much, but somebody, went in there, took the first 4 letters real quick off the bat, and ended up
Yep,
winning everything.
hung in
So
and hung in and hung in, and
That's the
mental
kind of stuff you
game.
like to see.
that's that.
I
Well,
love it.
Eagle made mention of that, I don't know, like a year or so ago, and he said, all of us that are the 1050 boys, or let's even go to 1040 and up, probably. He said
Right.
every single one of us can throw every single one of the shots anytime we need to.
Yeah,
At this point, it's all about
Mental. And
100%, man.
huge props, by the way, to Eagle, knowing what his problem was, getting help with it, sticking with it, and committing to it. You know how hard it would be? Like, if I was in his shoes and I seen progress, right? And I go a couple rounds where I'm like, I got a good clear mind and everything, you know, how easy would it be to be like, I'm good. I
Right.
don't need to do this anymore. But he's staying committed. He's staying with it, and just disc golf strong has been great for him.
yeah,
Huge progress.
Disc golf strong, and I know he does a lot of breathing
Yeah,
exercises.
that's where he
And
gets it.
I'm convinced that's got just an awful lot to do with being able to manage and handle pressure.
Yeah,
If you can regulate that breathing and really, obviously, the 14,000 repetitions they've taken on the putting green, it
right.
has something to do with it as well. But there's
yeah. But I
guys that can
mean,
execute when the pressure is the highest. It's obviously the difference between 1050 and 1035.
yeah, but, and
100%.
the amount of confidence that you have when you go out there. I mean, it has so much to do with it because we saw it with Paul Macbeth all year this year, where he was just not
Almost
hitting.
there.
He was just not
Yeah,
hitting putts, and it truly came down to when you've watched him be dominant like 2019 or 2015, where he's just been the absolute guy. He could have done that this year. His tee work and his fairway work was just as good as it always has been, but his putting green was not good work this year. And he
yeah,
understood that, and he said, "Look, there were some times that I went out there last year where I was not confident, and you could absolutely see every little bit of it. So this year I've put all the emphasis back on my putting again to make sure that, we all know I can make the putt, but I need to know that I'm going to make that putt before I throw it." And
Well, and he changed
that's
his putting stroke partway through the
yeah.
year this year. He used to have
It
the real high, and uh, he kind of changed that a bit. And I think for him, and I think for Paige, and probably a couple others, I think their influence is growing so much beyond the course. Obviously, with Paul's foundation, and I think Paige sees much bigger things in her future than just
Oh yeah, for
being a
sure.
6 or an 8 or a 10 time or whatever it is that she ends up
yeah.
being. But And I think, this past year was really the big jumping off point for both of them. Obviously, Paul announced the foundation. There's no two ways about it. I think Paige, took a lot of steps in that direction as well with,
Mm-hmm.
the way she's kind of doing things and with her brand, et cetera. And I think they both realized that, as crazy as it is, I don't think either one of them put the time and preparation and dedication into 2021 as they probably did in past, because they do have so many, oars in the water in so many different places right now, and they're still just about the absolute best, or top two or three
Right.
on the
And,
planet, and
still getting there, still being in the top. And,
all the time. And I think this year they'll go, you know what? Last year I let off just a little bit, and I had just a
right.
little too much going on, and I think they probably both have some things a little more settled and are ready to really to focus, and it's become a big thing with everybody. KJ just announced he signed with a sports management company, and I think a lot of these players are really realizing that, obviously, in our sport, you've got to grow your brand. It's a big thing to have a
Mm-hmm.
brand in disc golf right now, but to have someone to help you grow that brand while you do what you do best, which is just play disc golf, could
See,
make a
that's the
huge
way that
difference for
Ricky
some of
went.
these players.
He's like, I got people,
He's got
that
Ari.
do everything for me, you know. Um,
Yep.
and it
Well, we
seems like, um, go ahead if you want to. While we're
well,
on.
just real quickly, I mean, what other professional sport on the planet are the top athletes managing their own social media and trying to grow their own brand
Right.
and
It just,
negotiating their own contracts and
hmm
negotiating their own, endorsements and stuff like that? Obviously, it doesn't happen anywhere, and we've never been in this position, so it's new to everybody, but it's
right.
fantastic to see it happening.
For
Yep.
sure. And
And
has anybody seen? I know this is a
well,
little segue.
let's uh let's get through the rest of the Maricopa Open real quick, because we're gonna retouch on all of this stuff in a couple of minutes when we talk about the LVC a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Um, but Jennifer Allen
Yeah.
has been absolutely dominant in the first two tournaments of the season that she has played. And I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I want to wonder if Owen Scoggins has something going on and whether she's just not prepared right now, and this maybe she took a little more time off this off season than she usually does and she's still warming up. But at the Shelly Sharp Memorial, Jennifer Allen beat Owen Scoggins, who got third place, um, by 18 strokes. And
Jeez.
That's
this
a lot.
week, this week, Jennifer Allen took down Owen Scoggins, who again got third place. She missed out on second place again, and Jennifer Allen beat Owen Scoggins by um, 16, 16 strokes.
That's a lot of strokes. Like,
That's a lot of strokes between those two players. I mean,
it
we see it,
really
I think,
is.
in FPO more than you do MPO, where you'll have a woman who is just heads and shoulders above the rest, and she'll blow the field
Right.
out. But those two are a
But
little
it
Exactly. Now,
more
kind of
on the
makes
same
you
playing field.
wonder, is
I
Jennifer
mean,
Allen that much more prepared? Or is Owen the one that's
yeah,
underprepared?
Unprepared, sure.
Right.
and I want to give some credit where credit is due, because when you look at the Maricopa Open, Jennifer Allen shot a 6 over total. In round one, she shot a 64. That course was posted at par 58. That still came out to be, with the weather factor, over 1,000 rated. But on the best weather day of the tournament, she came out and shot that 61, which also posted 1,000 rating. And I mean, I think that we have to
Playing
talk
some good
about
golf.
she. Yeah, she looked absolutely ice cold dominant when we really look at how she played. Nothing against Owen, but I don't think Owen should be getting beat by Callie McMoran, who got second place in both of those tournaments. She's too good. So I'm hoping that it just means she's just, starting to get back in the swing of things, and she's a little underprepared. And she's just trying to work her way up to what we're gonna see out of the rest of the season for her when we get to LVC. But either she is severely underprepared, or we're about to witness a surge by Jennifer Allen on the tour this year, and I'm
That'd be
here for it.
interesting to see.
It would be. I'm down for whatever. Good disc golf
She,
is great disc golf to watch.
she
So
Yeah.
finished the year with a bang with a big win at U.S. Women's, the Pro
Pro,
Masters.
yeah.
yeah, the
She
Pro
had a huge
Masters.
win there. That throw in, uh,
Yep.
either in extra holes or the 18th hole or something. I know it was a
Yeah,
huge win for her right off the,
I-
to propel her
I'm
into the off season, and maybe that was a hell of a lot of motivation to
Yeah.
work hard.
Yeah.
yeah, if you look at last season, they played 8 times head to head, and Owen took down 3 wins. This includes this season, actually, I should say. Took down 3 wins last year to Jennifer Allen's 1, which was Shelly Sharp, which is now going to be 2 because they have not updated on this website for Maricopa. But when you look at it, um, she finished top 10 75% of the time. And just directly compared to Owen, she was on the season basically 50 strokes behind, which, for 8 total head to head matchups is not totally terrible, but I don't know. The performances out there are something to behold for
Yeah.
me.
So she lost by an average. She lost to Owen by an average of 6 shots per tournament over 8 tournaments last year, and then just beat her
Yep,
by an average of 17 shots in 2 tournaments.
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's a 24 shot swing the other direction. That's pretty
So
impressive, man.
It is.
everybody be on be on the watch for Jennifer Allen to make some kind of a surge this year because she looked great
Be
the
interesting to
last
see.
two
Yeah.
weekends.
I hope she keeps it going.
She throws it
Um,
a mile.
Yes, she
yeah,
does. She
Be
what?
interesting to see her play LBC.
She's got the women's distance record right now, right?
I think so.
682, something
I
like
don't know
that.
what it is, but
I,
she's got to reach
I would,
back
yeah,
like
I would
Colton
have to look.
Montgomery and just chucks
yeah,
that thing a
just
mile, man.
swam.
Um, Speaking of Colton Montgomery, just a quick little plug here. Do you think Colton Montgomery makes a little switch this next year?
Is this the last year of his contract?
Yeah,
I think so.
he got extended this year though for one more year. So
I'm just saying
I
though. I
think a
mean, you
lot
think
has to do with what he does this year.
yeah,
It's like the NFL; it's a contract year.
yeah,
no,
Like I don't know.
everything. I just thought it'd be interesting if Kona goes in there and really likes where she's at for the rest of this year. Do you see Colton maybe say, well, what can you guys do for me
I'm
now?
just saying
Maybe.
Colton's goofy style really fits dynamic pretty well. Um, he would fit right in.
I think
Uh,
it fits Discmania too, though. I think his kind of
it
goofy style
does,
fits Discmania with Eagle and Simon, and
I feel like
um,
I don't know. I feel like is it just me or does Kyle Klein like present himself more professional than most? Like I know he's young,
I was gonna say I think he's so young, he's just too
but
scared to
it
say or do anything wrong.
but
Yeah,
at
I
the
think we're gonna
same
see some
time he's a
personality out of
little
him.
well, we started to see it there at the end a little bit, where he started wearing the Simon jersey when he was on Simon's card, and when he would wear the Eagles jersey on Eagles card. You
Yeah,
know,
I think we're gonna see some serious personality out of him this year because being the rookie and being the new guy on the block, it's a pretty tough
It's
thing. And
tough, sure.
there's part of you that wants to walk out there and hold yourself. I would compare the way he held himself out there a lot this year to like Macbeth, where Macbeth was very head forward.
right,
There's obviously some times where you get some nice banter back and forth with him because he's been on tour long enough to know it's okay. But at the same time, most of the time he's very head forward.
right.
But I think we're going to see a little bit less of that this year out of him.
I
It
I would
loosens up and gets to be a little more comfortable, I'm sure.
right.
Yes,
Plus, he's gonna
absolutely.
have we
There's
talked a little
girls on his
yeah,
team.
we talked about that a little bit last night. I was told that I said her name wrong. It is not Ricciardi, it's Ricciardi. So, my bad.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
I wanted to correct you, but I also wasn't 100% sure that it was. I just
well,
the only thing I know is that most of the times that
yeah.
double C is not pronounced like that.
Yeah, I don't know
Uh,
why. But anyways, I got corrected.
Apologize.
Yes, I apologize. Um,
um, so speaking of Macbeth and some of the stuff that we've talked about with mental games and prior um, commitments and maybe not, you know, being present, Macbeth is not playing in LVC. Now,
Yeah.
I know that there had been some talk about it. He had mentioned that he was going to be skipping it, or at least that it wasn't on his tour plan this year. Um, and we know he announced his departure from Foundation Disc Golf, um, which seems to be removing something from your plate. So, from what I can understand and what I can see, I'd have to imagine he's just not going to be ready for LVC, or doesn't feel like he's going to be prepared. And I'm assuming it would have to do something to do with his foundation. I know he has some foundation trips planned um, in February. So, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised. Um, he he had said that he wasn't going to try to do the Western swing, um, in the early part of the year. He it is, I guess it is a little surprising to not see him on the first pro tour, but
Right.
evidently, like you said, prior commitment. I'm sure he's got something going on with the foundation, not disc golf, but Macbeth
The Paul
Foundation.
Macbeth
Paul
Foundation,
Macbeth Foundation,
Right.
specifically.
yeah.
And, he might, the same way with the All Star weekend, he said
Right.
that he just had a schedule conflict. And I would assume that that's probably the same way. And
Yeah. And I mean, he won it last year, so he doesn't necessarily need to be there this year. He
he did
probably.
not win it. Oh, the All Stars. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought you was talking
Yes.
about OVC. Yeah, he did win the All Stars, which it would have been a lot cooler if Ricky and Paul would have been captains. I'm just saying. It
Well, and I think it would have been interesting because they're doing the skills competition
Yeah,
this
the
year.
draft.
Yeah, and then the putting contest and a distance and an accuracy and stuff like that. And I wonder. To me, I think that's something you want Paul and Ricky there for because they're
Right.
two of the best in the world at that. And I wonder how much of that to them was just like, it's kind of hokey and weird, and it just
And didn't
doesn't
pay
really
enough.
fit my yeah. I
And
don't think the money, especially for Paul. I mean, he's announced again this year that he's going to
Right.
donate all of his winnings to the foundation, which I'm sure is a beautiful tax write off at the end of the year.
Right.
Um, but he obviously doesn't need the money for any of it. I don't know. I think it's kind of weird, like you said, that he's not going to be at LVC. I would think that he would have to have a pretty good idea of what those dates were going to be for those tournaments prior to scheduling anything with the Paul
yeah,
Macbeth Foundation. Could definitely be wrong, or maybe just the way logistics worked out with wherever his trip is. This is the fastest they could get something in the ground, and when he
Right.
had to go, or something to that effect. Who knows? But
yeah, and that's my thought process about it as well. I'd have to imagine that it has to do with, even if he is back in time, if he feels like he can't prepare, because we know that he is um, the hardest worker when it comes to preparing for tournaments. He's usually the first one on site at most locations. And I'd have to imagine it has to be that he doesn't feel he could prepare for this tournament. But I still think it's a weird decision to skip LVC and then play Memorial the next weekend,
Right.
because LVC has, so much more weight for him, at least in terms of how the season plays out, than Memorial does. So that was kind of what I felt was really weird about it. Was
same
if
because
he's if he was
go
if
ahead.
he's
I'm sorry.
gonna no, I was just to build off of what you were saying, Ethan, where he talked about skipping some of the West Coast swing, but then why would you skip LVC and then the very next week play 3 hours away from Las Vegas?
Yep.
That's what was kind of weird to me is how are you if he was skipping the whole West Coast or the first part of the West Coast or something like that, it would
Right.
kind of make some sense. And it's odd to me as well because I agree with you 100%, Daniel, that he probably prepares harder and better than anybody else on tour. But I find it hard to believe that he doesn't feel like he can come in top 3 or 4 every single week, whether he prepares or not.
Yeah.
That he
Right.
couldn't show up at LVC in 3 weeks from now or whatever it is, and still, with where his game is right this minute, he still doesn't feel like he's at least like a podium finishing
Right.
player. And maybe that just speaks to the unbelievable talent that's on the pro tour these days. That maybe he
Yeah.
doesn't feel like with where his game is right this minute that
It could be a confidence
he
thing.
could be a
Right.
top 3 player just when he shows up. Like obviously 2 years ago he knew he could take 2 months off and show up, and he'd be
Yeah, he just
probably
needed to
win,
show
if
up.
not top 3.
Yeah,
Right.
he just needed to show. I mean, we're talking about a player who is literally on a, what is it, a 10-year streak? 9, 10, 12, 11. It's 11 or 12 years streak of being first or second at every Worlds.
Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, at least a few years ago, he could have just shown up and been, on the podium.
Definitely
But
top 3, absolutely. Well, and I
Yeah.
think at one time he absolutely had the Tiger Woods effect,
Oh,
where, I mean,
yeah.
he just scared
yeah,
people. I mean, if he was on your card, or if, God forbid, he was on the chase card, people just had
oh,
meltdowns, just like
When
they did when Tiger was chasing you down on
yep,
Sunday. I mean, people just absolutely imploded. If Tiger was in, God, he was getting 4 or 5 shots, people were imploding. And
right.
Paul, I think, had the same effect, up till probably 2020, even, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
And I
Because
think now he doesn't.
I
Yeah.
was I
I
was
agree.
rewatching the MVP Open in 2020 when he won, and he was not in the lead going into the final day. But if you rewatch the second day, I want to say it was like maybe hole 11 or 12. Paul Ulibarri made a comment. He's like, "Well, Paul's at 8 down right now, but don't forget to give him that 3-stroke buffer." And Jeremy's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, because if he's behind you, you got to give him a 3-stroke buffer,
Yeah.
like because
You're
he's
going
going
to
to make
give him
that
at
up.
least 3 shots at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You know that he's going to make up at least 3 strokes there
Yep.
on the final day because that's just who Paul Macbeth is. So,
Yep.
Yep.
when it comes down to it, we think it's a weird decision, but he has a reason for it, and we just have to let it play out the way that it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agree.
And that's how it is. All right, we're gonna play a quick game. We don't have too much time left, so we'll try to be real quick about this. But I wanted to do a little bit of a game. I had heard some people do some, wild predictions about this season or some, prediction stuff. So I kind of wanted to do a little bit different format with all of the movement that we've had and all of the companies looking a little bit different this year. There are essentially 16 elite and majors to be played this year, assuming obviously the European Championship is played. Um, and let's see what everybody thinks here on how many wins on those 16 tournaments every company is going to take down. And this includes anybody on their team. I'm not gonna say that Eagle gets 3 wins or Ricky gets 4
Right.
wins,
This
but
is the team.
between all
The
the
team,
players and
whatever,
the
like
teams
how many
available.
Discmania has, or however
Right.
many Trilogy has, or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
Um, so I think I will go first.
And technically, this will be 32, right? Because MPO and FPO. So
Yeah,
out of
32.
32 wins. Okay.
Which team
Um,
is going to have the most is what we're trying to decide,
yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. So I'm gonna go with, for starters, I'm gonna say Discmania is gonna, or not Discmania, excuse me, Discraft is gonna take down the most wins this season.
Sucker.
Um, and I mean it's hard to bet against them after the Dickerson acquisition. I don't know what to
Yeah.
tell you. I can't imagine. I'm gonna say Paul Macbeth is going to take down at least 2 tour events this year and get a win, and then he's going to win either Worlds or USDGC. So there's 3 right there. I'm going to say that Chris Dickerson is going to win um, at least 1 Pro Tour, and he could also be competing for USDGC. I'm going to go ahead and give him 2, so that's 5. And then I would say if you think that Paige Pierce takes anything less than 5 this year,
What's exactly my thoughts? You can go ahead and double that 5 number that you just threw
Yeah.
out there with Paige.
yeah.
And you
So,
got Missy Gannon as
That was my
well.
next thought. I think she's good for probably 2.
Yeah.
yep. So for me there, then when I come down to it, out of 32,
You
I'd
can
say 12 for Discraft.
I don't care.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm gonna go ahead and say that coming in second is going to be uh, Trilogy. Because you're going to write down, let's see, Ricky for 3, I would imagine. Um, at least. And then I think Kona's going to go out there. She's going to win twice this year, I think. Um, I'd have to imagine that. So I'm going to pass it on. Go ahead and give me your top 2, Ethan.
All right. So I am glad that you didn't say anything about this because this is my topic. Trilogy will win the most. And I'll tell you why. Because Kristen Tatar is going to win more than Paige and Missy combined. I'm going to say it. Hot take.
Hot take. I love it.
I'm not even sure how hot that take is because
Yeah, you're right. But, like, she came over and showed dominance.
she took a week to warm up at Worlds, and then she was like,
And
"All right,
then
I'm good."
went 3 in a row, or, well, 3 out of 4.
Yeah,
You know,
win second, win or something like that.
yes, and she gets a full year of touring over here. I'm just saying, I feel like,
Wonder how long till she moves here.
yep, and I don't think it'll happen just because of the Estonian stuff that they've got going on.
They've got a big academy
you know, like
and all
the
that. Her and
Edge Disc
Silver.
Golf does for US.
Yep.
They're basically
Yeah.
doing the same thing over there.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So her and Silver, but I'm gonna say Emerson Keith gets a win this year. I'm gonna say Ricky gets 3. I don't think Kona gets a win. I do think Connor O'Reilly gets a win. He plays well in the woods, very well.
I do have to add one more to mine for Trilogy. They're going to take down one more win than I had just said because I forgot about Euros coming over again. There's Linus Carlson is taking down at least one win on the Eastern side for sure. So
I agree.
add one more win to that.
So that's my Trilogy take. And then in second place, I'm gonna go Discmania. I think Discraft is gonna have people absolutely loaded in the top 10. All right, I really do. Like if you took averages, Discraft all day. But Kyle Klein, I just feel like this is his. I feel like this is his year. I really do. I think that he gets. He got his jersey. You know what I mean? He's got a jersey now.
You win, you get a jersey, man.
Exactly. Yeah. He was so close so many times, and he should have.
He took Paul to a playoff at
USDGC. He took Eagle all the way to hole 18 at Deglow, and he also what was the other one? I'm blanking. Anyways, he was in contention.
He was in the conversation a lot.
And I think Discmania is going to be carried very hardly this year by Kyle. I think he wins more than Eagle this year.
That's a hot take.
Yep.
That's a hotter take.
You're just full of the hot takes right now.
For sure.
Clip it.
For sure.
Clip it, Chad.
But I do. I think that Kyle is going to have a breakout year this year. If you can even say that, because I feel like last year was a really good one. So it'd be hard to break out from that, but he's going to do it. I have faith. He's got his girl on tour with him. They're in a van now. Life is comfortable. No pressure. No, which I feel like would be a good thing. It hopefully is, but so I'm gonna go Trilogy and then Discmania, and I think Ella Hansen wins some bomber course this year. I feel like she's got a very good shot at LVC.
Memorial.
Portland.
Emporia.
Portland. All of really the western states.
Yeah.
She's got a good chance. So
for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. That's my picks. What about you, Rob?
I think it's tough to deviate from where the two of you went, I mean, we have, like we said, 4 or 5 big brands. I think you really have 4 big brands: Discraft,
Right.
Trilogy, Discmania, and Innova, really that are in the conversation. MVP, I think, unfortunately, just doesn't have enough players
Right.
in the caliber to stay in the conversation with the rest of them. Just to be different, I'll go Discmania, just because I'm a fanboy, I guess. But
That's all right. This is a
I
podcast. You can
agree.
fanboy.
I agree with your assessment of Kyle Klein. I don't think he wins more than Eagle, but I do think that he wins 2 times this year. I think Eagle wins 4 times this year, and I think Casey White wins at
Ooh,
least 1 tournament this year.
that's a good pick.
And I think Simon wins a tournament this year.
I
I think
hope
Simon
so.
is back, and I think he's uh, going to be chill and a little focused when he gets after he has Baby Crush Boy and
Yep.
gets his feet under him. And I'd actually forgotten about Ella Hansen because I was leaning a little away from Discmania because they don't really have the FPO representation to win a bunch of tournaments. But let's I think you're right. I think Ella has a good chance to win something on the West Coast or DDO or something like that on one of the big bomber courses.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go. I'll pick Discmania. And I think I have to go Discraft second with Daniel. I think it's a pretty good toss up. I'm with you, Ethan. I don't think Kona wins
Yeah.
a tournament this year. I think she is so close.
Yes, I
But I
agree.
don't think she's quite there. I think for putting, unless she's really figured something out in the offseason, which if she has,
Then
I
she's
think she
gonna
could
be
be dangerous.
dangerous.
But
Yeah.
she can chuck a disc. There's no two ways about it. And I think she's got the mental game, and I think
Mm-hmm.
she prepares really, really well for tournaments. But I think with Paige and with Missy and with Chris and with Paul, that alone is going to make Discraft pretty tough to beat. So,
And wait, hang on. We
and are we going to throw
include
Katrina in
Katrina.
there since
Oh
she's?
my God.
But I saw
I
today she's on the
forgot.
new
Yeah.
Johnny Disc Golf interview that I think just came out today. And
Oh,
she said
nice.
as of now she is not bagging any Discraft. She said she doesn't feel the need to throw any Discraft. She doesn't feel like that DJ doesn't have a mold that Discraft does that she needs, and
Right.
she has created a mold. She's got a prototype coming out that will be her disc, kind of like the Fierce
Yep.
was, I guess, in the Passion for Page. But she made the statement that she has had extensive conversations with them, and that she's hoping that if she does come to a point where she finds that a Discraft disc is needed, like this is what I need to fill this slot in my bag that DJ doesn't offer, that maybe DJ will then just create that mold
That's
uh, going
perfect
forward. So
scenario for her.
it sounded to me like she doesn't plan on, at least right now, throwing any Discraft at all. So
Right.
I guess you
Where,
got to count on Andrew Marweed to get a win for
yeah.
DGA and the
I
Discraft
mean,
boys.
Marweed is only throwing one as well.
Right.
Just the zone. One zone.
He's not throwing the buzz?
Nope.
No.
Nope. He is
Yeah, but
throwing some
forehand.
riffs, but no zones.
Katrina said she's going to be throwing the Rift too. She said she really
Mm-hmm.
liked it. I've got one. I've thrown it a few times. I've never really kept it in my bag long enough to
The only disc that I
make a
have
judgment.
um from DGA is a sail,
Mm.
and it's
Real understable
it's
driver
supposed to be, yeah. It's just not as flippy as I like, to be honest, or as I would like for it
or
to be.
flippy. Right,
Right.
right. Yeah,
And it's probably because it's the sparkle plastic, so
a little more
it's a
overstable.
little more overstable. And it's
Just needs to be beat in a little bit
I've
longer.
tried. I've threw it into walls. I was out here earlier throwing it into my house. Okay? My
Not
brick
on
house on
purpose.
purpose.
Oh,
And
You're gonna
I
have a first
that's
run Firebird
dedication.
like me.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it might be the most durable plastic out there. To be honest, like I can't even tell. Or I'm just a wimp and not wanting to hurt my house. But
Yeah,
um
yeah.
imagine grip lock through
Yeah,
window,
I'd be
you know?
more worried about hitting my house or
Yeah.
hurting my disc than hurting my house.
Yeah, no. I it was to the point where I'm like I can't sell it. So I'm going to
Right.
try to make it work. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm like it just needs a little bit. Like it doesn't need a lot. but like I'll put hyzer on it and it'll flip up, but not get to flat all
Not
the way.
actually get
And
flat and drift at all.
right, it if I max distance crush it, it'll get to flat, and I'm just like, you're not supposed to do that,
Just looking for a little bit more than that.
right? And the
Yeah.
Mamba does a little too much, so if I could just beat that sail in a little bit, I'm like, yeah, it'd be perfect, but
Yep.
it's not there yet.
Yeah,
Keep hitting your house with it.
That's
Yeah.
I tried it, and I feel like it did a little bit, and cut my finger, but yeah, but
I threw one on the
we'll get
roof of
there.
a house the other day.
I've got one on
First
my
time
roof
I'd
right
ever done
now.
that.
It's a
I threw
wave.
it on the roof on a course. I've never done that before.
I've got one on my house right now. I've got 10 acres of field here at
Oh,
my house,
nice. Nice.
so I just throw everywhere.
Yeah, I bet.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Sounds like you need 18 baskets.
well, I've got 2.
Okay. Well, you need 16 more.
I need 16 more. Any donations would be
Right.
appreciated. No, I'm just
Tennessee Twos accepting baskets.
exactly. Tennessee Twos now accepting baskets. Any and all are approved.
No.
Absolutely.
Do not send us a disc catcher. I swear, if you send me a disc catcher basket, I will send it right back.
That's some pretty serious
Hey, I would
commitment.
take a disc catcher in a heartbeat. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Right.
He is serious about that basket if he won't even take a free one for your
Listen,
house.
Right.
Listen,
It's
you
not
you
even
said
gonna be
any
at
and
his house.
any and all are
Oh.
accepted. No.
I didn't even
Any and
think
all
about
but
it. That
disc
was-
catcher.
Yeah, any and all but disc catcher, but disc catcher pro? Maybe?
I've never. I don't think I've
He's
ever
out.
actually thrown
He's
on a
out.
disc catcher pro, so I don't know.
He's
If it's
out.
got a
Yeah.
catcher on
No,
it, he's out.
Right.
No, if the disc catcher pros are really that much better, I'm willing to give them a chance. But a standard disc catcher, the one that they put on 80% of the courses in the United States of America, don't even look at me. All right, you can look at me, but don't send it to me.
Right.
Okay. Well, yeah.
right.
So,
Rapid fire Super Bowl predictions here.
no,
real
we're
quick.
not done yet.
Oh, come on.
I gotta go over just a few more things. Chandler Fry, Alexis Mandujano, both got elevated to the elite team this year. That means that they are getting discs. Chandler
4
Fry.
series.
Yep. Chandler Fry has originally he was gonna do an Undertaker, but he backed off of that. Benjamin Callaway is taking the Undertaker, and Chandler Fry is going to resurge the Surge. He is going to do the Surge, and that was one of my favorite discs when I first started, and I lost it. So I'm super excited about getting a Chandler Fry Surge.
Nice.
I might have to send it to Shakedown.
There you go.
There you go.
Sounds like it. Dyed discs fly better.
They do. That's a proven fact.
That is a proven fact.
That
They
is a
say
proven
that they
fact.
ace better too, but I've yet to. I
You know
still
what?
don't have an ace.
You know
so
what?
I'm gonna have
Actually-
to argue that until I ace one with a dyed disc.
Actually, you know what I really think I need to do is I need to clean off the EV7s I just bought, send them to you, dye them for me. Maybe a disc catcher will actually take it.
There you go. Hey, worth a try.
It is worth a try.
Maybe we should dye a disc catcher basket on
That's
the
clever.
disc.
That's clever. That way
Give
it's
a little,
always there.
little love for the disc catchers, and
Yeah,
maybe that'll
But
help
then
your
my
karma.
favorite.
The fees
Then
will have
I
little
feel like-
stamps.
Yeah. I don't have anything to say to that. That would be the best word for it.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep. Now we're dyeing tramp stamps.
Yep. This is what we've come to.
This is what we come to. So with that, now we're going to talk about our Super Bowl predictions. Ethan, why don't you kick it off?
Had one more thing, but okay. I can't not. I have to talk about it. Did anybody see Heimberg's new logo?
Yes.
The
I like it.
the C, the H, the triangle, and the circle.
Yep.
I like it.
I like the fact that he reached out to the community and
Yep.
was like, "Hey, who wants to do this?" Like KJ did, and he signed with Beacon Sports Management.
Yep.
And holy crap, have they not got him into everything?
Real quick.
Yep.
Well, he had said at the end of last year, he said, I absolutely will have a bigger presence, on social media next year. I think he obviously realizes it's, you know, it's look at the KJ and the Chris Dickerson situation at Prodigy.
Yeah.
Chris is clearly the better player. Nothing against KJ. He's one of my favorites as well. And
Right.
an absolute great guy who I think got robbed of a couple wins this year that were not his fault.
I do agree
Played
with
good
that as
golf.
well.
That just got absolutely robbed a couple times.
He's the unluckiest player in disc golf.
He really is. At least 2021 he was, man. I mean, for sure. And knowing there's the details, obviously, but I think it's pretty obvious that KJ got a pretty good re-up there at Prodigy.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that had probably something to do with Chris and Katrina both
Yeah, I can see that.
walking away, knowing there's anything but, obviously, I think it's easy to connect those dots. But I think that just goes to show just how much marketability means to disc golfers. KJ
Yep.
doesn't have the rating nor the track record that Chris does, but he is by far the more marketable
Agreed.
player right now. And I
Agreed.
think Calvin said, I need to get in on this. I
It's-
can't just continue to sit
He
back
knows
and
what's
just
holding him back
come
from
in
making
it's-
big
second.
money.
It's
Yep.
not even that KJ is more marketable. I would even argue that Chris is more marketable, but KJ does the legwork,
Sure, Chris markets
and-
himself,
and-
or KJ
right.
markets himself.
and Chris
Right.
does not. So
Yeah.
that is something that I'm sure they absolutely love. Is just the fact that when you get somebody who will do the legwork for you, then you're going to take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Discraft takes that responsibility on, and now they will market Chris Dickerson.
Yep. And
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
far they've done
Chris doesn't
pretty
have
well.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
I just wanted to run over through some of his announcements. He has announced a new sponsor every day for the past 5 days.
Yep.
And it started off with Flight Towel, then Flight Factory, then Gander Disc Golf, BII Apparel. So
Yep.
he's getting jerseys, and the newest one is Throw Joe's. And some of these you wouldn't even think of being like sponsors, right? But they are, and it's awesome. Beacon is working their tails off right now. Has to be.
Yeah, they're earning their money.
They are, for
For
sure.
sure.
And I'm like,
Yep.
if I'm out there in the disc golf world, I'm like, I want to be with them. You know what I mean? Like, that's who I need to be with. And makes me want to sign with them. Just be like, hey, want to help me? I don't know. I'm like 850 rated. Can you get me there?
Yeah. I'm about 835. Can you get me up to 900 if I
Yeah.
sign with
Yeah,
Beacon
if
Sports
I sign with
Management? And I
Beak-
can focus on golf all the time. Or I'm
Right.
super, super stoked to see. And Calvin had announced that part of his announcements was going to include a dye sponsor. And I
Yeah.
thought that was a really cool thing.
I love
Obviously
it.
for the dye community, that you're seeing more and more pros throw. Paul and Dylan did that super, super cool thing over the holidays with the
Yep.
had all the dyers send their discs in to them. But I thought it was super cool that not just will Calvin have a dye sponsor specifically, but that it's actually a publicized public
Right.
thing, that here is my guy that dyes my discs for me.
That's so
I think
cool. And I think
that's-
it's going into an awesome space that's untapped potential right now. That's so cool. Yeah. Who's gonna
Yep,
be? Who you
100%.
signing? Who you signing?
Man, whoever. I'll
He's
be
signing-
happy. I'll be happy to dye this for anybody that wants me to dye this for him.
Hey, bro.
He's signing.
Look,
he's
I'll
signing
get out
Tennessee
there,
2's
I'll
disc
do all
golf.
the legwork.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
just put a shakedown jersey on me, and I will shake every course down because I'll be hitting all the leaves off the trees. All right.
That's what I like
So-
to hear. I've got a couple guys that have been interested in some jerseys and some T-shirts and stuff, so that might be something that we see here in the not too distant future.
I'm
We'll see.
down. You just let me know. And the last thing is Katrina going to Squatch Disc Golf, which we had talked about
Yep.
in episode 3, I believe, is how much Squatch had upped their game. Well, consider it a couple levels higher now. Whereas we thought Ezra was a huge signing for Squatch, Katrina is the jackpot.
Well, I thought Drew was a huge signing right off jump when
Yeah.
they signed Drew Gibson right at the very beginning. I thought that was
They
a
just kept going.
big thing.
It was, that
Yeah.
they just kept signing players and kept signing players. I'm like, hey, golly, all right,
They either have
they-
extremely deep pockets or the product is as good as everyone says it is.
it makes
It's
me
gotta
want
be
to
one or the other.
try.
I've got 2 friends that have them, and they both rave about them.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely rave. My one buddy said that he's carrying more discs than he used to, and his bag is more comfortable and feels lighter than he was carrying, like, 26, 27 or whatever, and now he's carrying, like, 33 or
That's
34, and he said
crazy that it's
I
lighter.
it
couldn't even
feels more
imagine.
comfortable than his other bag was. So,
I
sounds like they're
thought
the real deal, man. I've heard
Yeah.
nothing but great things about
I can't
their
wait to
bag.
get them
So
on here and pick their brain a little bit about it.
I'm curious to see what the bags look like in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so the funny thing about them right now is that everybody who is signed with them is using one of the, the 2 bags that they have, which is really just 1 bag.
I was gonna say they only have one
So
bag with 2 colorways, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine though you're gonna see some signature bags in the next couple of
100%. They
years.
said that they were working on that this year.
Signature colorways and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
So that's going to be, and whether or not they'll be available, readily available to the
Right,
market, but
right.
they will be like on those players. And then,
Those players are gonna have them.
Yeah. But
Yeah, they're not gonna make a special bag that they're not gonna sell though.
yeah.
It's not a good marketing decision. So we know that if they make a special bag for a player, at the very least in a special
do
run,
like pre-orders.
it'll be available.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing pre-orders, I'm sure, is probably how it'll go because
Yeah.
that just makes a lot of sense. Although Pound just made that fruit stripe looking thing for Big
Yeah.
Germ, and I think that's a one-off.
It is definitely.
Boy, that is an interesting. It fits Big Germ
It
for
does.
sure.
I
He
could
would not
see
catch me
him.
dead with that thing on my back,
I could see
but
him and Joel
it's
Freeman.
Germ. Yeah, for
both.
sure. Yep. Or Drew. I could see Drew
Yeah, I
Gibson
could see
rocking
Drew
that
too.
thing
Yeah.
as well, for sure. But yeah, not me.
Yeah.
I'm a cart guy. Cart guy.
yeah.
Cart gang.
I like
I'm
the
too old
carts
for a
as well.
backpack.
But all right, now we'll get into the Super Bowl predictions, and I'm gonna go with Joe Cool. I feel like the Bengals have come too far. I just feel like they're gonna muscle a way out and find a way to win this one.
What's the final score?
Final score, I'm gonna say 27-24. Bengals.
Good Super Bowl.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, what do you got?
I'm gonna have to follow Daniel. I think Joe Burrow's the real deal. I think they are riding a wave of just some great play and some great energy, and uh, I think if you can come back and beat the Chiefs in the second half at Arrowhead, you got a lot of moxie, and
Yeah.
I think they're gonna get it done. Final score 31-10.
Oh.
Ooh,
Super Bowls are not usually very close games. Super
Yeah.
Bowls are typically blowouts
You're
one way
right.
or the other. So we'll go 31-10.
Don't tell the Falcons that.
listen, I'm gonna go against both of you guys right here. I need Matt Stafford to win one Super Bowl.
He's made it to the
because
Super
there
Bowl.
is
So he's
there is no quarterback in the last decade that I can think of that deserves it more, and nobody who's gonna go out there and fight for it more. I mean,
Yeah.
dude could dislocate both of his shoulders and he's still going to be under center. I guarantee it.
As long as he's not under
Okay.
center in Detroit, I think he'd go out there with a broken leg.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
He's just happy to be playing for a winner.
Yep.
I think that Burrow's gonna make it close. I'm actually gonna post the same, score. I really think 27-24 is pretty correct. I just think that it's gonna flip over to the other side, and that Stafford's going to do the impossible. Now, I have to say, Sean McVay needs to get his head out of his, because the play calling last week gave me anxiety all game long. But we also know that McVay is the kind of guy that has special plays that he is not breaking out unless he absolutely has to, and the Super Bowl is the best place
Time
to
to
do it.
do it.
It is.
Absolutely. It's do or die. So you definitely will see some trick plays in the
Hey,
Super Bowl.
let's go for
Yeah.
my Titans. Like 3 more of them got to the Pro Bowl now, and now they're coaching. The whole Titan staff is coaching, which kind of is weird because they fired 4 people, like 4 coaches, assistant coaches, right
Titans
after
did?
right after the
Wow.
game. Yeah, Robinson was not
Damn.
happy. So
Speaking
4 assistant
speaking
coaches,
of
and now they got a coach in the Pro Bowl with them.
All together.
Oh my God! There's no way you'd get
speaking
me
of
caught out there.
oh my gosh, speaking of firing assistant coaches, I'm gonna even look in the camera for this one. Rams, whoever you've got in the booth, you guys figure it out. Those were the two worst challenges I've ever seen in NFL history. Don't let McVay do that ever again. Figure it out. That's it. That's all I got.
I couldn't keep it straight. I'm sorry. But yeah. All right. Is that are we good?
That's it. That's all I got. We ran a little bit long, guys.
From
It
what
was
I've
worth
been
it.
told by the stats, it looks like they like the longer episodes. Most people probably driving, working. I enjoy the longer
Or I listen to
episodes.
podcasts
Yeah,
in the car.
if it goes off, I pick it up where I left it off. It's not
Yep.
it's not that big a deal.
Right.
So for the people that are working and driving, and you made it to the end of the episode, we love you guys. We appreciate you.
Much appreciated.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
One
and,
more
shout out.
absolute huge thank you to Rob for coming on, being on the show with us today, guys. One more shameless plug for him. Please make sure that you go check him out on Instagram, on Facebook, and
Etsy and YouTube.
And
I actually have a
YouTube.
YouTube channel as well. Yeah,
Very
with
nice.
some.
I'll be subscribed
I've got
to
a
that
few
here in just a
instructional
little bit.
videos. I've got
Yeah,
a few
head on
how-to
there.
videos on there.
guys. I mean, come on. There's an onyx dye on this Etsy shop that, I mean, it's the most beautiful cotton candy dye I've ever seen in my
Yeah,
entire
it's a
life.
pretty one.
Like if I had money,
He
it would
said-
already be gone. I gotta be honest, it would
Funny
be
how
gone.
that works.
Yep.
Well, thank you
wouldn't even
both.
be
I really
telling you guys.
appreciate it.
Yep. We really
Ethan reached
appreciate
out
you.
to me last week, and I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I appreciate you just kind of giving some more exposure to the dye community. It's growing all the time, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to have me on and talk about dyeing a little bit, talk about disc golf. I really appreciate it. Happy to join you guys. I'd be happy to come back anytime.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. We do appreciate everything that y'all have done. Y'all have a great night and a great day tomorrow. And whenever you are listening to this, just know we're thinking about you. Y'all have an awesome disc golf weekend. And
Yeah, happy February, everybody.
Yep.
peace, guys.